Hi everyone, the following video is a recording from our fourth Artist Feedback AMA session featuring only street and documentary photography. The session was held in the MetaJungle Discord on April 28th and hosted by talented photographers Mike Schmidt and Jordan Banks. We want to thank Mike and Jordan for their time in reviewing 12 different NFT collections, as well as everyone who was able to attend and all the artists that submitted their work for review. We hope you find this session informative and helpful, and with that, let's get into it.
Just wanted to kind of give a little introduction to Jordan. He's a really amazing photographer. I've been looking at a lot of his work lately, ever since I found out that I was going to be doing the AMA with him. And so I don't know how I didn't notice him more before then, but really fantastic stuff. I definitely recommend going to check out his work. He's been published in National Geographic, BBC. I know you've done work for like Nikon and Adobe. Can you tell me like a little bit about I was just looking before at JRNY Travel Mag. Is that your travel magazine, or are you like a co-creator of that? And what is that about?
Yeah, I would love to tell you guys about that actually, because yeah, it's Jrny. It's an acronym. I'm not sure that's the right word, but yeah, Jrny is the name of the magazine, or JRNY. But a lot of people make that mistake, so we didn't properly think it through, maybe. But once it gets known, hopefully it sticks. But what it is I'm a co-founder of it with my business partner, who we actually run a company called That Wild Idea that runs workshops and tours, and we're quite lucky that we sort of went down the high end client route, and that has then allowed us. The reason we did that was to try and get people that would allow us then to give back, and this is before Web3, or before I knew about Web3, should I say? It's not prior to Web3 being a thing. Well, before I was in it, and we sort of had an ethos that we wanted. There was lots of young people in England and around the world that wanted to get into photography and didn't have the chance. So we sort of used our we sort of went down this route with clients anyway, to get then they were able to put something back into the so sort of Web3 ethos without really knowing what it was. That then obviously during the pandemic basically completely shut down. We couldn't do anything for like the youth and things like that. Obviously, we couldn't go out and do our workshops. And I was actually in Croatia. My wife's from Croatia, so we went and spent the summer out there of 2020. And during that time, I heard the news. I can't remember the order now. Someone might know if they're from England, but Lonely Planet magazine in the UK and the Sunday Times travel magazine shut down. And that was a source of revenue for me, for my work, and more importantly, for a lot of other, photographers and writers that I knew in my circles that relied on this stuff for income, and they were suddenly out of work. Even when the pandemic ended, they were going to be out of work. There's only a few magazines left doing this anyway. So I spoke to my business partner. I was like, now would be a great time. I don't know why I thought that, but now would be a great time to start a travel magazine. And
Yeah.
he then said something to me like, yes, it seems crazy, but when it gets, I'll try and speed it up so I don't drag on. But he actually approached me before we became business partners about doing a travel magazine. And I'd sort of forgotten about it when I said this to him. And he was like, he basically had a whole business plan of how he wanted to do this and crowdfund it. And, everything would be a collective. So everything would go back. Every bit of revenue would come in. It would pay for the magazine. It would pay for the printing. It would pay for the designer and editor. We would take nothing from it, but everything would go back to the artists, or the writers, the photographers in this, and it would become a collective. So we decided to go with it. We crowdfunded it within a week. I think we only asked for sort of £7,000. I say only, but to produce a magazine, it was not that much. We got that within the first 5 days, and then we ended up closing out the crowdfunder at about double that. So we were able to pay each contributor about £500 for their piece. Which
Amazing.
again,
It looks like you got a lot of people on the team here. I don't know if you guys know I'm sharing my screen now, and so I'm on the page with the travel magazine. The covers look really beautiful.
yeah, I mean, what
Hmm.
we do, it's going to mix every time. Some people will, there's no strict lineup of people that. So issue 2 has just gone to press, and it'll be coming out in the beginning of May, and we'll be shipping. But what was quite exciting about it was that was our first issue, the one that you can look at on the stream. And we won, I can't remember the exact date, but say 3 weeks ago, we won the Travel Magazine of the Year, and we beat out the
Wow.
likes of, yes, we were a bit like, the pictures of us collecting it are both of us, like me and my business partner, like how have we done this? Like, what is
Well,
going
look, I
on?
think
Like,
this. I think this is how. Like, I mean, look at this. Look at this. Like spread right here. Like, this is just. The colors here match the polar bear. He's looking down into his reflection. You have it on white. It's really, really clean. Really beautiful. Clean.
yeah, I mean, what we wanted to do was
Awesome.
go for really, and it's more of a bookazine, so it's got no advertising. It's long form writing, which I think, there's no advertorials. It's writers telling it how it is. They're not paid to say this place is good or this place is bad or what it is. And then we did photo essays as well. But again, we concentrate on getting really high end, photography and making it really stand out. And so the thing would actually become a piece of art. And, it's just gone on from that. I mean, we've got it in Books A Million, Barnes and Noble in the US. It's in WH Smith, which is the UK.
You know what you
news
could do
agency.
next? You know where you could put it next? On the blockchain.
Mate,
Time.
one step ahead of you. It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah. I was going to say, because Time Magazine has done it, and they have Vitalik Buterin on the cover, and you could click through the magazine digitally, and you own it as I own it as a one. Not as a one of one. A bunch of people own it, but like I had to own a Genesis timepiece and also a Slices of timepiece, and then that first issue was airdropped to me. So like I never want to sell that because it's the first Time Magazine issue on the blockchain.
I've got the same, and I've actually been in contact with Keith Grossman because I've been involved with the Time community.
Oh wow, he's fantastic.
He actually, he followed me a while ago, which is just amazing. I mean, this is what I love about this space. I mean, trying to get hold of Keith Grossman, in
he's
real
following
life.
me too. But if it was on Instagram or something, it would never work outside of Web3.
No, so it's just like how. So I didn't hit him up for anything. I didn't, do it. And then because I was just planning and looking at the background, because I've actually taken over, like the editorial side is not my thing. So, because I'm not a writer, I'm a photographer, but I've taken on the role now of just dedicatedly moving this magazine into Web3. But it's how we do it with keeping it in IRL and Web3, because obviously we still need a physical product. But Keith Grossman, I reached out to him. I haven't actually managed to catch up with him, but he almost replied immediately. I sort of said, hey, we've won this award. I really want to do this. We've got this ethos of the magazine. We think we can make it work in Web3 and get ahead of the curve of places. Obviously not Time, but, be one of the first to do it still, or an originator, especially in the UK. And he was like, let's send me an email. Let's get on a call. So, I mean, I did that. And I don't know if any of you guys know TK Curated. TK, who's anyway, I'm not sure he's that involved with. He's a collector, but more than an art, a creative. But he does like some video stuff. But he's around crypto and this sort of thing, and he was in marketing, and he's been kind enough to really help me as well. I had a big long call with him yesterday, so he's, and he may even think about coming on board and helping with the project. So I mean, it's a long way to get it on Web3, but it's coming. But I'll shut up about that now. But
cool, man. So
check it out. It's got a Twitter handle, which is @JRNY Mag. It's the Twitter handle if anyone wants to go follow it.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad I was looking into you today and I found this and brought that up because that's really cool to know. So we'll be able to get this magazine on the blockchain here in the future. So that's really cool. So it's a travel magazine. Now, what would you consider yourself as a photographer? Do you put yourself in a genre? Because it looks like you shoot travel, documentary, maybe street, landscapes. Like you just kind of all around.
I mean, I class myself as a travel and documentary photographer in my literature website, I guess. My style, I would say, is more documentary in general because of the way I shoot. A lot of it's editorial, but it's only because I kind of feel that travel, like, is obviously a genre, but it's quite a lazy way to explain what I actually do. And I don't mean that bad for someone who calls himself a travel photographer, because I do.
No, it's just kind of vague. It's kind of broad and vague, the statement, the travel photographer, because like we're all kind of traveling when we're taking pictures, right? So it's a hard one to put into a category, but it definitely fits in some categories for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you could be a travel landscape photographer, you could be a travel street photographer, and I tend to do all of them. I wouldn't say, I say documentary because I used to be, like, before I started travel, I mean, I was still traveling as well, but I was a photojournalist covering conflicts, which was my real passion, because I felt it's the rawest form of photography. Just
that's amazing,
really,
man.
Sorry,
Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna
No, I was going to
say,
say,
you said photojournalism and wartime and stuff like that.
yeah. I mean, I was in the Balkans. I've done some stuff in Guatemala, West Africa. I've done conflict stuff all over in Mexico and different, and some of it's not necessarily war, but in the Balkans it was. And
Have you been to the Eddie Adams workshop?
no, I haven't.
So that's, so he's a war photographer, and it's actually like the most premier like documentary workshop that you can go to. I actually went to it. It's like a 3 to 4 day boot camp, like of photography, where they send you out in the area with different stories and different families and people, and you have to basically come up with a story within like 2 days and then put the story together. And that there's all the teams are there, Time Magazine, the New York Times,
Yeah,
and then all the biggest magazines. You sit down with the editors and stuff, but you have to submit to it and get accepted and stuff. But that was one of the most amazing things I've done, was that workshop. And that was
that sounds
basically,
amazing. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
I've
so you
got
should
so
look
much
into it.
respect. I will do, definitely. I mean, I've got so much respect for these guys and girls who put their lives on the line. I mean, when I did it as well, I would say it sounds a bit. It was relatively safe. That sounds probably a bit stupid, but now, war has changed in terms of nobody is safe. Really, it used to be the press kind of got a pass. It was like, there was people like James Natchway. I don't know. He might have been there around your workshop, or you've heard of his name. I mean, he's a legend. I luckily have met him, and he was what the guy who actually sort of really mentored me a bit through and helped me. But he actually used to go in some places. He would get himself onto the other side, and implement with both sides and really tell the story. And I mean, now trying to implement yourself on. I've never tried it, but I wouldn't want to try and get into the enemy line, behind enemy lines now in a war. I
Yeah,
think that would
wow.
be like, that is
That's
risky
another
business.
level. That's
Yeah,
another level of like doing what it takes to get the shot, right? Like,
yeah, and tell the story. I think that's the important thing from this. For me, it's like
yeah.
you get the shots, but what's really important is you telling the story that
Tell
needs
the
to be
story of
told.
that side, right? Because
Yeah,
it's
and
always it always seems as though like the country that you're from, or like the side that you're documenting, is the side that's in the right, and then maybe sometimes you go to the other side and you see the pains and the struggles of war from their end, and you start to
yeah.
have a new perspective on that.
I mean, that
Wow.
was what I saw that in the Balkans, because the Balkans was a very. I mean, there was no side for me as such, but you could, and there was so much infighting that even the people who were the goodies, they sort of still supported bad people. I mean, it's hard
Yeah.
to explain, but it was a very weird thing. So I saw that to a certain level, and it really fascinated me how one side is told. But I think the power of getting these moments, they can change the world. And I think more than video clips. Well, everyone talks about video, video, video. That's what we want now, and I get that for Reels and Instagram and whatever, YouTube. But when if you freeze a frame and it's actually sat there and you have to just look at that frame, it has the power to change decision makers, the powers of decision makers and what they do. And because it just sits there and you're staring at this awful situation that needs to be rectified. And whereas the moving image can skip past it and sometimes lose some of its impact. So yeah, for me, that was the true power of photography. And I went into travel after that because I was worried that I was going to come out and not be the same person, see things that I
You
couldn't
needed a break
unsee.
and you needed to travel. You
Yeah,
needed to
I was
travel some.
traveling. I just was. It was James Natchway actually spoke to me and said, he was like, "Do it, man. What you're doing is admirable, but just be aware that if you sometimes you cross a line and there's no coming back from that line, and you'll never have proper relationship." And he wasn't saying never, sorry. He's like, you
What
just might.
what what did you mean? What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, he was
Crossing that
the
line.
whole
What line?
the horrors of war, I guess, where you just don't know what you can mentally take before it
Ah,
affects you. You see something and you might be fine with something, then something else happens where you're just like, "Wow!" And and he
yeah.
was saying, how strong are you? And you're like, I don't know. Like, you
Yeah,
want to
true.
find that
How
line,
far,
like,
yeah, how far can you pull the rubber band back before, you hurt yourself in some way, and you have like some type of post traumatic stress from what you've done, I hear you.
And
I definitely, I totally commend that, and thanks for the introduction, man. I'm really, really glad to have you here today. You have a lot of experience, and have a lot of skill and stuff. This is Jordan. If you guys don't know, this picture right here, great shot, mate. And
thank you, man.
cool.
You're not the only one that's good of me.
All right, so I mean, I guess we could jump into the artist then.
100%.
Loved hearing about you, man. Follow Jordan Banks if you guys don't. He's really great. So, the first one I had up here is Mourning Ceremony. I remember when we opened this one up yesterday, we were just like, right off the bat, sometimes you open up a series and you just kind of like, wow, like, whoa, like what are we looking at here? And so like, lots of beautiful images. I'll read the artist statement. So documentary works about universal Ashura mourning are very effective in every frame. The photos are from the photographs I took at Istanbul Hakali Asura ceremonies between 2012 and 2019. H.C. Hussein became a martyr in Karbala. One of the things Muslims remember with a sadness is the Karbala incident. This incident that killed Hussein, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, guys, happened in Muharram. During ceremonies in Istanbul every year, tears of men and women add sadness to the ceremony. These ceremonies are held every year in Turkey and in the world. Wow, so this is I didn't know that this was a thing that where there's ceremonies of sadness and people come to add more sadness to it. It says, so when I take sad pictures, I am very impressed. Crying women, children, and sadness on their faces impress me a lot. So I don't know, that maybe this is just me reading this. I don't know if it's a language barrier or something, but I mean, I don't know that impress might be the right wording on it. Maybe for me it would be like the sadness on their faces, or seeing this type of thing is like a powerful thing to witness. But that's just my own opinion.
I would
Hundreds of
just interject that I'd agree with that. That was one of the notes I made about that. But I think what you just hit on there was that I think we discussed maybe last night as well that it's probably a language barrier. But I've got some advice for that. But carry on reading it, mate. Sorry.
Perfect. No, perfect. I'm glad, because I was wondering, because impressed to me sounds like you're when you're impressed with something, you think they're doing a good job at something. So it sounds like doing a good job of sadness or crying. I don't know that that's the right way to go about it, but there's definitely power in seeing that level of emotion and dedication coming out to these ceremonies. And so yeah, this is really interesting. So it says crying woman, here we go. Hundreds of photographers come from the city and other cities every year for the mourning ceremony. It's also open to the press. That's why it's so hard to take pictures. I have been going to this meaningful mourning ceremony every year for 7 years and taking pictures. So basically, this is they're one of one, eight items. All the photographs have been awarded in international competitions. Interesting. So, we got the artist statement first to talk about an award at the end. I think that's always the best way of going about it. I think the story is always more important than the award. So I think, overall, this is, a pretty good and interesting artist statement. Probably needs just like a little work on, some grammatical stuff. And then, with the impress, you said you had some suggestions on that of how to maybe write that portion.
Yeah, well, not to actually change. I mean, I think what they've done is right. I think you could, again, I don't know if we can hear from the person who's here if they can confirm that or not. But obviously it's very well written if you're, from where is it, Turkey, where this happened? Yeah, isn't it? If you're from Turkey,
they are here. It's the name is mine Evren Ertugrul. So if they can unmute and they can speak English with us, or if you have a translator or something, then that would be cool too, to actually kind of hear about like this mourning ceremony, because I've never heard of anything like it.
I was going to say I'd like to hear more about it. It's cool, but so going back to that, I think that this could be really, if it was really well written as well, which I couldn't even really well write it. But if you, I mean, I was in a space with a collector, and he was, I think we talked about this briefly last night, and he was saying that it's even, he would offer to do some of this for people. I'm not going to give his name out because I don't want you to all DM him, but he's kindly offered to some people to help them out. But he also suggested that as artists, as creatives, if this isn't something we can do well, we should try and find somebody who can do it, whether it's an artist or a writer that or going to, is it Fiverr, I think you've got in the US, and I'm sure there's other similar things in the UK and around the world, and work alongside them. Because I think with a really well written intro to this, it would really, you just read it, and then when you saw the images, you'd get that impact more as well. And if you don't, the other thing I thought of was I think it's Grammarly, which is an app which just helps add in the grammar, and just it would probably pick up words like impress and just say, "Are you sure you mean impress here?" And it would give you other options as well to say in its place. So that was my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and so a lot of people have an issue with writing, right? And so that's why they're photographers, because they want to take a photograph and be able to say something without having to say something. But I don't think you necessarily have to be a great writer if you have somebody that could help you, as long as you're able to give them some ideas as to like how it made you feel photographing this ceremony, or what brought you to. And I think everybody could probably do that. Talk about like what brings them to this and makes them want to photograph and document these moments in time, and that could then translate from someone who knows how to write and say, okay, I understand how this person was feeling, why they did this, what this is about. Now let me help them write a solid artist statement. And so maybe we'll have people in the community with MetaJungle in the future that want to help and in assisting with translating and writing artist statements. Maybe that's the next evolution for us. So
That would
perfect.
be so cool if you did that, I reckon. I mean, you'd probably be flooded with people doing it, but I really reckon that's a really good idea. I mean, I think that'd be super helpful because
Yeah,
I'm super dyslexic and I can't write. I'm just lucky that obviously you can see with the magazine, I've got editors and people around me who I could just go, hey, this is it. Spruce it up for me, please. And they're like 5 minutes later, they're like, done. Like, it's only a paragraph. So, I'm super lucky like that.
yeah. So I mean, I find MetaJungle right now to be like a hub of learning, education, and support. And so if we can continue to expand that hub by having people that are like really good at all different things, that want to lend their ability, that are good at that outside of just helping with AMAs and stuff like that, but writing and such, that would be awesome. So I'm going to jot that down and talk to the team about that. So let's dive into the actual work here then. So this was under documentary, and so the ones that stood out to me was actually right off the bat was like these three images, and I think a lot of it had to do with just these really beautiful compositions, and the processing in these is really perfect for me. Like I really enjoy the processing, the composition. I'm not sure what's happening here with the chains, why the face is masked. And then same thing with this shot here, Outcry, which is another really fantastic image to me, where all these people are just like I mean, they're just all in these different positions of just of sadness, and then one person who has their hands up, and the only piece of white is just this garment coming down here. It's composed really well. Now that being said, the ones that I was less drawn to were a bit over processed for my taste, because I think if we're shooting documentary, that we probably shouldn't be going into so much over processing. This one seems very, very soft. I love the composition. I love all the faces on the children. I love this kid here. I don't know if it was, purposely edited this way, or if it could still be, edited back to the same clarity as the others. And, or something like this that seems to be very processed in the sense that, we've had like the background darkened out and the other elements of the image removed. And so now this moves into an area for me that feels a bit more like fine art. and a little bit less like documentary. And so, having said that, Jordan, I'd like to know what what you feel about the collection.
I think for me, like and when we first saw it last night, it strikes you immediately. It's something that grabs you, and it is like you say, those select images. I think that are really strong. I mean, that the ceremony. I like the fact that you really feel the way that the photographer's got down low, has got close, has gone wide, it's the perfect sky. It sets off to, it draws you in. It really feels like you're in that picture, and you can tell the emotion or the feeling of it. Say, because you're close, because the photographer's so close. It feels like you're in the shot. Again, the same with outcry. Um, you know, it's close. You can see the emotion. It's capturing that real. It's different angles. It makes you feel like you're actually watching something really special. Then again, with Crying Woman, I think there's a little bit of work maybe on the processing there, but I really like the emotion in that shot. That's it's obviously a powerful shot, but I totally agree with you with some of the other shots of the over processing, like the women and children in mourning and the sadness. And it's
I think this level of processing here is not something that I think in
no, not at
documentary.
all.
Yeah, I think in documentary with processing, like contrast, saturation, those types of things, maybe a bit of sharpness or clarity. But I think when you go into, and you start making it, more along the lines of, I don't know what was done here. I think this is a beautiful scene, but it's hard to almost see it as documentary. She feels very processed, and I
Yeah,
think this one did sell, but that this is my opinion on documentary. So, but
yeah, I agree. I think the two that you pointed out as well, sadness and women and children and mourning, they look to me like they were on a stage show. If that, I'm not sure they are, but you know what I mean? It feels like I'm watching a play, and I'm not
yeah,
sure if that's just where they were taken or how they've been processed, what exactly has made me feel like that. But they sort of stand out as from the crowd in maybe not such a positive way, unfortunately, from the other compared to the others that are quite, there's some strong images in there. Again, sad eyes. I think that's an intimate portrait there. I think that that grabs you. I mean,
beautiful.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
she's got a striking face, and it's a really detailed portrait. And I think there's I'm trying to think how
Obviously
to put
a
it, but
really strong photographer, like like with these two shots, ceremony, outcry, nothing's really like overlapping anything else, like no one's really overlapping each other in a way where it's like, your eyes go to it and it hurts the composition. Like even this lady here, the two holding up the picture here, everything is just sort of, everything just
the Jesus.
fits.
I assume that's Jesus. It looks like it. I'm not. Forgive me if it's
Yeah,
not.
I was gonna say Jesus, but I didn't want to be wrong.
Yeah, I'm happy being wrong. I probably am wrong, but I
Okay,
think that's a really nice touch. I think that really that if that wasn't there, it wouldn't be the shot it is to me. That those little details, I'm a big fan of. They add a real context to what's going on. If that this is a religious, a meaningful ceremony, whereas if it was just like that, you maybe wouldn't have the context of what was going on. So I think that's a nice touch, personally.
yeah, and I think that sometimes little things do a lot too. Like this sky opening with a little blue right here does, and separating into this darker sky here does a lot for the image for me. And it's not,
Yeah, agreed.
it's not as prominent as like what this does and says, but this adds like this atmosphere that just kind of feels like, whoa, the sky is opening. Whoa, it's got this kind of eerie feel to it that really lends to the image.
I mean,
So
it draws you through, doesn't it? It draws you into the image with those natural lines in the cloud and just the formations, and then it's got layers and depth that keep you there. I mean, for me, if you can have a photograph and you can keep someone's attention for, you know, 10, 15, 20 seconds, which doesn't seem like long, but that's quite a
yeah,
long time for someone to just sit and look at something. And often people look at something and move on to the next. If you can hold their attention, give layers and depth and give them something to look at, that's a real skill in documentary photography to capture that person and want them to start asking questions themselves. And you start getting into actually longer periods than that, then you've really you've got a great image if people look for 30 seconds, a minute, and even longer at it.
yeah, absolutely. And so like I don't have any other like as far as like constructive feedback for this, except for like what we've already said. But I'll definitely say that the descriptions are really good. They got their licenses, the additions, and then they have a lot of great properties. They're telling you the DPI, the dimensions, 1 of 1, location. So I think they did a really good job of adding the stuff that's important. And so, as far as that
Agree. I
goes,
think
yeah,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
agree with that. My note said that was perfect. I thought, I mean, obviously, different collectors might have a different opinion of what needs to be added, but they've done what needed to be. I think, or
Yeah.
they've put the effort in, and I think as well the different names as well, which we've seen. They've given
Yes. So
titles. Sorry,
having
titles.
you're saying like having a actual title for each image rather
Yeah,
than each one just being morning ceremony number 1, morning ceremony number 2, because we've seen that a lot in some of the other collections.
yeah,
And
exactly. That's what.
let's talk about
So
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think not that this hasn't at all, but I think like just as we're on that topic a little bit, that I think these things, and especially in this space, like so I know some artists don't like it and they don't think it should matter, but we're in a space where I think it does matter. And I think, just
Mhm.
spending that time, not always just going to the obvious choice, really thinking maybe, the title doesn't have to reflect what is in the picture at all, in my opinion. If you can express it in the title, the emotion or the feeling of the picture, or help give that feeling across that you want to. So I would suggest, often spending a few minutes or, actually writing down the titles, coming back to them, seeing what other people think, taking, a bit of a bit of opinion from different people, just family members, brothers, sisters, whatever, husbands, wives, um, I think that's useful rather than just not against this one at all. I'm not talking about this specifically. Just really get those titles strong and in context and not just what people
Absolutely.
expect it to be called.
Absolutely. And so, and really nice looking banner really draws you in. Minor detail for me, like, I'd capitalize some of these things. Like I'd capitalize morning, I would capitalize ceremony. It'll just look more professional with your banner. You could probably capitalize some of these angel sadness, sad eyes, and that's all I really have for this collection. I think it's really good work. And you guys in the audience want to send out a retweet and share the work. Yeah, please share some work from today that you enjoy that doesn't have enough eyes on it. Obviously, this doesn't have that many eyes on it. There's only one owner, and price point looks pretty good at 0.15. So, with that said, yeah, I think we can move on to the next collection. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. I think I hadn't actually noted that down really. I just read it, but I think, yeah, you made a good point about capitalizing things. I think that's
Yeah,
worth doing.
cool. So, this next
Can I
collection
just
is
say one
called.
thing,
You go ahead.
Mike? Sorry,
Sure, sure.
I was going to say all of these things. I think mainly that we've talked about, bar actually the images. If I'm not mistaken, if the photographer is in the room listening, can be changed without a gas fee. I believe you could just do all of
Mm-hmm.
these. Maybe not the title of the images actually in the descriptions, but you actually, yeah, you probably can't change the titles of the titles of the images, but you can change the stuff in the morning ceremony at least to capitals. Actually, I think.
You could
Sorry, go
change
on,
the
Carol.
you could change the titles of the images as long as a collector didn't buy it yet.
Oh, okay. Oh, there you go. Then I was right, but yeah. So apart from that one that's gone, then you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So
Has one
that's
just
fine.
been collected as well? That piece has just been collected, I believe.
Well,
The one we the strong
I
or what
don't
we.
think it was just collected. I think it had
Oh,
already been collected. Let me just refresh the page anyway. I mean,
maybe not. I thought there was only one piece, Tom, from that we said. Maybe not.
yeah, this one was collected, and I think this was collected. Yeah, the sale was 9 days ago, so this one
Oh,
had
okay.
been
My bad.
collected. So yeah, no, it's all
Right.
good. All good. So yeah, so the next series is actually called Cold, and this is by
Hey guys.
Hey, who's that?
Hi, this is Alpha. How you guys
Hey,
doing?
Alpha, it's nice to see you, man. How you been?
Hey,
Hey, buddy.
doing good. You guys are doing awesome. I'm listening in on Emma's Emma's account.
Nice.
Yeah, I bought Ceremony from that one.
I
Oh,
just
you
thought you
bought
just
it.
just
You
bought
guys
bought.
one
were
for this
talking.
too, dude.
Yeah,
That's such an amazing image, man. I love
that
that
is
image.
it's incredible, like
Yeah.
insanely good. So yeah,
Yeah.
just thought I'd tell you
Agreed.
guys. So it's pretty exciting.
Okay, cool. I thought we had Emma in here, and we were surprised we got you too. Awesome.
Thanks for
You got to
that.
keep up. Like Alpha moves in shadows, mate. You got to keep up.
He does, bro. He does. Cool, man. Love the
All right.
collection.
Keep it up, man.
Nice
Cool.
work, dude. That's massive, man.
Yeah. So the next one we have here, this collection is called Cold, and this is by Mustafa Erbas. And so I'll read the artist statement here. He writes, I like to keep the photograph as simple as possible and explain the subject with the least object. I like to force the viewer to use their imagination. What I tell and what she or he understands may be different. I love this contradiction. So I see where you're going with the artist statement. I'd probably stay away from using the word force the viewer. So, there's probably other words that you could use to talk about how you'd like the viewer to use their imagination with the actual work. And you could probably even add more to this artist statement as well. But I see where you're going with this. So 10 items. I think 10 looks like a really good number a lot when I look at it on OpenSea. And so my first impression of it was that it's really cohesive. Like it's a really cohesive body of work, and it feels to me like a lot about solitude in these cold times. And so and some of them actually have a fine art feel to me. Like if I open up Cold 2, I felt like it had, and it's hard to define what fine art actually is, but I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, when you see it, there's just a feeling, and for me, this feels very fine art. It's really really beautiful. There's a lot of mystery to it. There's no human subject in this, but there's still, I feel, an emotional connection with this image, with the tree as the subject. Lots of beautiful shots here. I favorited this one here, Cold 5. So this is what I was talking about the titles, though. I think if you could have a title like maybe the title is like the man and his herd or something. I don't know. That's off the top of my head. But rather than cold, rather than just cold, might be more interested to in or connecting to a collector. But as I look here, really great descriptions, artist bio, one of one. You got the licenses. I'm glad that there's a lot of people that are really taking to this feedback now, because it looks really professional. Get all these properties here too. We think properties is really important lately. Well, now especially now and going into the future, I think property is going to be used a lot with. I think it's like the EXIF or the metadata behind these images that we're minting onto the blockchain. So really, really good job there. Really nice price point. And just like a lot of gorgeous images. What I would like to flip it to you, Jordan, on how you feel about this collection.
I mean, I love it, to be honest. I really like it. It reminds me of one of who's now a friend of mine, actually, but my favourite photographer for a long time was a guy called Stian Klo from Norway. I'm not sure if anyone has heard of Stian or knows him, but this work really reminds me of some of his work. I mean, in a good way. I mean, I'm not implying it's copied or anything. It's got that really simplistic, striking. Yeah. I mean, you nailed it with most of what you were saying, actually, just cohesive. It's really simple but striking, and just, I mean, again, that Cold 2 is really nice. I really like Cold 6. I think that's really strong. I think Cold 3 is really strong. I mean, I'm a big fan of these one-person lone tree, that sort of thing. It's something. I mean, Cold 1. I think as well, I would like to see more in the description at the top of the artist statement. Again, that may well be a language barrier, which I totally get, but I think these could really benefit for some real emotion putting in and leading you into it, because I do think it would just be nicer to see tied in together. I quite like the way they've done Cold all in capitals, and I think it looks really slick under the under each picture. And I think if you could change the names from Cold 8 to something else, then that whole thing would look really slick as well. It presents well when you open it up, the 10 landscapes.
I mean, you could even take the word cold and just go on Google and type in like synonyms of cold, and then some of these shots you can use those synonym words within that to create a different title. Like There's a lot of ways
totally.
of doing it. But I
Yeah,
actually like Cold is I think it's a really good title for the collection. As simple
agreed.
and like straight to the point that it is, it works. And just one word things like that don't always work, but in this case I feel like it really does.
Yeah, I agree totally with that, mate. Totally. I think that's a great tip as well. You just said they're putting in, different I think pseudonyms. Is that the word? Is that what you use? I can't. I'm so bad
It's
at what
synonyms. It just means like
synonyms.
other words that
Yeah,
also
yeah,
mean cold, and then get ideas from those words, or maybe use those words in like a short little sentence, or just use that word to describe that picture, or something. Like this photo is phenomenal. I know that the guy Mustafa, who posted in my art thread the other day this work. um the balded photographer actually bought this one, and this is one of my favorite ones in here.
yeah. That's
Really,
so strong, that image there as well, because it just drags you into it again, doesn't it? It's got like the lines and the person, the small,
yeah,
and the light's really interesting as well. Like you can't quite make out where it's coming from, but I mean that in a really positive way. You're like, is that the sky there, or is it reflecting off the snow as a mountain behind it? It's really interesting. Adds depth to it in those subtle shadows, and the way he's heading towards something. It's strong. I'm not surprised that was collected first, to be honest.
yeah. Me too. Me too. I think one of my favorites is actually this what is this called? Cold 7. I really enjoy the contrast in this, and also just like these little what are these, twigs or whatever they are that are coming up from the ground, that they're just this black in the frame, and then the gentleman, he's just stepping right between the two
I mean,
boats. A lot of
that
great.
image you had there, agree. That, I mean, having those reeds in adds a lot of depth to it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got obviously the boats really drag you in, so you sort of get drawn into this image as well. It's going to keep you, what I was going back to, it's going to keep you looking at it for a longer period of time. Whereas
Yeah.
if I just take, for example, Cold 9, which is probably the weakest in the collection, I would say, in my opinion. It's because it's just looks, it's taken at sort of not quite eye level, but it's not quite close enough for me. It doesn't hold your attention like all
Yeah.
the others do, where, for quite as long. You can see the subject, go, okay, I've seen the subject, and then you probably move on. Whereas you see, if you look at Cold 10, I believe they're like, I don't know, salmon, or I don't know what sort of fish they are, but you're like, oh, okay, what's this going? Oh, okay, that that guy's back there. Okay, he's fishing. That the clouds bring you in, and the lines of the snow, and
Mm-hmm.
it's going to keep you there for that time. And then if you keep someone there for longer, they become attached to it. Possible, not always, but possibly, and it has much more meaning for them. So that's what you want in your art. You want people to keep there and not want to leave. And then they're more likely to purchase it.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that, with like the dimension, like especially in this one here. I think that's what it was for me. Like these weeds coming up, like just add layers of dimension to the image, and then the boats, and then the man, and then this water back here, and then the sky, and there's so much added there. Whereas the one that you pointed out, there's really not many layers. I don't think you always have to have tons of layers, but I don't. Yeah, there's not enough on the left side, like to keep me drawn, to the image.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
What I
negative
would
space. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, what I think. I mean, I can't quite tell because I can't see it big enough if it could be done. But there's something on the left there, which is probably part of the sleigh. I don't know what, or the equipment that
Yes.
he's using. And I personally would have probably removed that, and I think it'd be more striking. You just have this standalone figure almost in the wilderness, because that distracts me. That like black line, I can't quite tell what it is, like I said, but it's distracting to me,
It
and
is
it's
to
not
me too.
necessary to
Yeah.
be in there. So I'd either
Sure.
removed it from the shot if it was something that could be moved. If it is a reed, for example, I would have, unless you're going down raw documentary. But I think when you've gone this style, it's fine art, like you say. I mean, it's documentary fine art, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, I wouldn't say it's against the rules to remove something in this, and unless you want to strictly go ahead and call your work documentary. I mean, you can just you can call it something different. I mean, this is it's not like he's in this person's house, and taking out things from the background, like pots and pans and stuff. Like, I mean, these
Yeah.
images are you know highly minimal, right? And so,
Yeah.
but like you said, taking out that element, and like this shot, I wouldn't take a thing away. I think everything in this shot is absolutely beautiful, and
No.
a lot of these are really. So yeah, I mean, outside of that, so I mean, 10 looks really great and like a great number to me. It's but like you said, if there was a weaker shot in the image, I would probably call it number 9, like you said. And then looking at these, some of them are a bit similar. Cold 1 and Cold 2. I mean, if you're going to have images that are this similar, I probably wouldn't make them 1 and 2. I'd probably like make them 1 and 7 or something and keep them further away from each other.
Can I add something in there, Mike, quickly, just while you're talking about those two?
Yeah, please, yeah.
I don't know this is going to be the case, and I hope I'm proven wrong, but I believe that Cold 1 and Cold 2 are the same location, but from different angles by the looks of that tree and the river or the stream. And my feeling is that this collection could end up with something like Cold 2 being left alone and not picked up, because even if the rest of the collection sells, because you will look at the person will probably look at Cold 1 and make that connection that I've made. I would have thought a collector would anyway, and think, oh, I kind of want Cold 1, and because they can't have Cold 1, they're gonna, it almost gives that they want that as well, and because they're so similar, they're probably it'd be something that would put me off collecting it. I think, honestly, I'd just be like, damn, wish I had Cold 1, and then you don't want to collect Cold 2 because you're like, I want a Cold 1 really.
Yeah, and so while 10 looks really nice in a collection, maybe losing Cold 2 and maybe losing Cold 9 brings this together in a greater way. So that's something to consider.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I think it's got a great price point. Like we said, the descriptions and properties look really good, and I think there's a lot of them that seem really like fine art. So I like I like it. So I like it a lot, and so I think we can move on to the next collection.
Yeah, totally. Good for me. What have you got? I somehow managed to get them in the right order. I think so that's good news.
Yeah, it's fine.
No, I mean I've got the same ones coming up next on my screen as you have. I'm looking at them on a computer, so it's a bit big. I've got you on a tablet because I don't trust myself with Discord on my desktop. So I've got both platforms open.
They'll all be in the right order up until the last 3 because I changed around a couple of the just a couple of last 3, but it'll be simple, make it easy for you. So this next collection is Colors de Cuba by Giovanni Cordioli, right? And so let's just take a look through. You like dark mode for this type of, or do you like the white?
I didn't even know there was a dark mode.
It's great.
I was wondering how people did it.
Sloika's really, really cool for looking at photographs because you could just slide through them with the arrow key, and you could choose whether you want the background to be dark or light.
I did not know that. I just got you can do it on OpenSea as well, can't you? I've seen people with OpenSea black or dark grey backgrounds. Is that true or not?
I don't know. I think maybe you can. But the Sloika process is very seamless for me. So
yeah.
So let's just take a look.
It's for photographers, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's just take a look through these first. I'd rather just look through 10 of them before we even say anything, and then we'll talk about the work. So it's very much about the cars in Cuba. It's like to me it's a lot about being car series because in Cuba you can't get newer cars, right? Like, so I would love to go and photograph here. Like, this would be like a dream of mine to be able to go to Cuba and just like shoot candid street people, like people in their cars, like in their cars from head on. Like I'd love to go here. This is really cool.
It's a pretty magical place, Cuba.
You've been, right? You've been there?
Yeah. Well, we were talking yesterday. Well, I used to live over in Central America in like 2000s. I was over there at the beginning of the 2000s, I think. And we actually went to look at Cuba because I lived in Guatemala, and I was based covering for Reuters. I was doing stuff in National Geographic. I was doing the covering Central America. This was back, still film photography, still long form contracts that would go, or assignments or commissions. We actually went to look at going to live in Cuba when we had some time, and we totally decided we couldn't live there. Like, amazing place to go visit, but again, this was full Castro days. It was,
Yeah.
there was limited food. It was just hard. Like, just traveling there was hard. The propaganda got to me as well. It was like, oh wow, I'd never experienced anything like that, where it was just full on propaganda like that just was, and just the pure lies. They'd say things like, we've got, great schooling system. And you're like, yeah, you have, but you've got no pens or paper. You've got, free medicine, but there is no medicine. It's like, well, it's all well and good having all these things, but you've got to actually have, saying you'll give them to people, but you've got to actually have them to give to people. It was saddening to me anyway, but I think it's got better, I believe. I mean, and I think obviously by more tourists going, I mean, it's gradually opened up a lot more to tourists. So I think that's a good thing.
And so I love this work, but I think we both agreed on something yesterday. And so a big thing for me is that you should always open strong and close strong. And I don't think that the opening shot and the closing shot in this series are the strongest images. And to be quite honest, the opening shot is the only vertical in the series. And so we talked about the fact that, maybe if this was the closing shot, it would, you'd had already looked at all the horizontals, and then, it ended on it. Because I mean, this feels a little bit to me more like a closer than it even does an opener. But as far as
portrait as well. If you go, sorry to interrupt, mate. If you go put it at the end, it's almost like you've come to the end, because this is different. It's like like the final page of a book. When you finish a book, it's not like the last page on the right; it's always the last page on the left. So it's portrait, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And he's kind of walking out of the frame, so it feels more like a closure to me. This here is the shot we both really liked. I'd have closed on this shot probably.
It's not an opener, is it? Just because of its rawness, and but it's definitely a strong shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think some of the I think there's a lot of strong shots in this, right? And so I think, I think we talked about this one being really strong. I think this is a strong shot. This one here, this is just beautiful. Look at the colors on these cars.
Yeah.
And I love how he chose a new perspective here, and he shot this one from behind. This almost doesn't even feel like Cuba. I feel like I'm going through like California, like Sunset Boulevard or something. It's a really cool shot from the back. And so yeah, there's a lot of beautiful photos here, and I feel like it's a lot about the cars and the people. And so he's got some pretty interesting. Let's hear the descriptions. Let's put some of the descriptions on. So the sleeper. So I was walking around the neighborhood when I noticed a man sleeping, probably drunk, at his front door, looking like a lifeless body. We also see this classic car on the street to help with composition and to redirect the viewer's attention from the very first look at the photo. And I think that's really well done. Is there any particular ones in here you want to talk about, Jordan?
Yeah, well, I think you covered that one. I think what I had from a note was that I think some of the descriptions, while good, I think they need a bit more added to it. I know they don't have licensing and things like that. So that was one thing that I think could be added to it while you were just talking about that. They do. It's on Sloika, isn't it? Of course. So I'm looking. It's
Sloika, so it has the licensing.
Yeah, no, it does. My bad. So I was looking on OpenSea there, big. I opened it accidentally on OpenSea, so it doesn't have it quite the same. Yeah, so that's all good. So forget that. I'm talking absolute rubbish. But I think it's striking, this collection, as you see it, because it's sort of got those strong, bold colours. I mean, I like the use of the colour in Collective Taxi, the strong whites, green and reds. It really pops off and it's clean as well. It's really clean. There's nothing distracting you from it. It's popping colours
which one was that? Which one is that photo you're talking about?
Collective Taxi, it's called. It's the man in the green.
What's the number on it? Oh, this one?
Oh, Yeah, that one. Sorry, yeah, 8. That'll be.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Because what struck me about some of this series was that the way I'd have done it, it's got a very clear cut of, like you said, the cars. They're obviously a part of it, and they're close up to it. You know that you're into them. Apart from, and then you've got these strong colours as well that really stand out as a collection. And if you look at, let's say, Collective Taxi, Rainbow Umbrella, they're very cleanish backgrounds as well that stand out. Whereas, and I think you could have, there's some areas, Tourist Guy, that could have been again. I think you maybe if you just waited and lose the on Tourist Guy.
Tourist Guy,
yeah. Sorry,
if you just tell me if you tell me the number, it's
2.
easier. Number 2, yeah, okay.
For me, that shot, I would have just moved him over a bit. And so you see more. There's a guy on the right of us there that's like a half face. Just clean up these backgrounds a little bit so that it's not the left, the right hand. I believe there's something in there, but even that would have also left the left hand face more open so you could see it. I think it could have just had a little bit more like attention to the backgrounds to really emphasize this sort of feeling that you've got of the strong colors and the bold compositions. And I think, it would have been a little bit, like watching Vintage Car Guys. I forget what number that is. Can't see it now.
Because you wrote down the notes as without the number. Vintage Car Guys, probably this one.
You see, again, I know that church or that cathedral or whatever that building is quite a busy building, but it's still a clean background compared to the pop of the colours. There's nothing else going on. You're wondering just what this guy is doing. You're telling his story, and the pop of the colours brings you in. Whereas if you go to classic red, which I don't know.
I love the pink on his shirt too. It's like the same pink as the car in the foreground. Yeah,
it matches. It's a brilliant shot, though. I think it really, really works. So, and again, it's clean. It's just it's the cleanness of this. If I think would really add that extra bit of cohesiveness to the whole collection as well. If it was just some bits just cleaned up a little bit, and a lot of it looks like it may have just been waiting a few more minutes, for the perfect opportunity or the perfect background. But I do generally like the collection. I think it's strong. I
do too. As far as something technical goes, if I'm going to be technical, like this shot, this shot feels like, I don't know, either the focus was missed or I feel like you got to maybe be shooting at like faster shutter speeds. This is bright sunny day. Like you could probably shoot this at like 1/2000th of a second and get a completely sharp photo. And we're just like losing a lot of sharpness. And I'd love for this guy's sunglasses and face and hat and all that to be sharp. I think it's a really good image, but I think it could have been a great image had that been the case, And in this one, it doesn't bother me as much in this one. I think if this was shot at, a faster shutter speed or the focus was nailed a little bit, this guy would be more sharp. But in this shot, for some reason, it really just doesn't bother me as much. I love the kid's hand back here too. Just this kid or whoever's laying back here. Nice little touch.
It's a subtle one. It's probably my favorite from the collection, that one, even though it's not the one I sort of originally went to, and I really spent some time. That's the one that resonates with me the most, I have to say.
Well, it's like it's like got this layer, like the half of the screen is like enveloped in this white of the car that comes around. Then the bottom portion is all green. The top portion is all red. It's set up like one of those ice cream pops that just have like in sections of color. It's just like really, it really, the colors really pop, and they're really interesting in that
Yeah,
shot.
I agree.
So,
totally.
yeah. But yeah, so I think that 8 is stronger than 10. So I probably would have like ended on something, because the thing about photography, especially documentary, like it's I like to think of it as a movie, right? And opening scenes in the movie are usually very, very strong, and the ending is usually very, very strong. And I like to kind of like relate that as well, is that good openers and good closers. Whereas maybe if you want to have some of the ones that fill, that are just like filler, more of a filler, and not as much of a banger within the series, throughout the middle and the edges. But I think you really, really great idea to start strong, end strong, be pretty like middle heavy, strong photos. Like I think this is one of my favorite in the collection. I think this one might be this one, the one you pointed out. This one here of cleaning of the car. I enjoy the different perspective here in the back of this one. I even enjoy this shot here. And so so I think it's a great collection. There's just a few things that how I would have done differently in the curation aspect of it. But
I think
let
what
me
you
see
said
what
just
else.
quickly there about the keeping the strong finish in at beginning and end. The beginning, especially on Sloika, where you're seeing it like this, I think it keeps the viewer coming in for more. And then if you get a strong end image, it leaves them with, if they're maybe not quite ready or not sure, or they've got to remember.
Leaves them with a great impression.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. Well said.
There's subtle little things that are just worth thinking about. I think that you'll usually get to your own conclusions of it if you just spend a little bit more time. I often find, and not just get often as artists we're too eager just to get things out there and get our work seen, and we don't often. I'm guilty of it myself. So
Yeah, another thing that I noticed when I read some of this was like some of the wording. So in this shot style guy, when this guy passed me on the street, I was walking back to the hostel. I turned around and shot him. I probably wouldn't say it like that because then in the next one it's like old Havana car, blah blah blah. He says in this photo's detail you could see his friend looking back and then he was leaving. I quickly resumed my search for the next target. So like using the word shot and target, I mean, it seems like kind of hunterish, and like I probably would like just use some different wording in some of these, but otherwise, I mean, I think that the descriptions are pretty good, and I really like the series as a whole. So, if you had any other closing thoughts?
No, I think you wrapped it up there pretty good. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that that it's the language, isn't it? I think it's. I assume Jrny is probably from somewhere like Italy, given by the name. So it's just a lost in translation. I think probably that of trying to explain these things and it doesn't. Like I say, if I tried to write in Italian, it would be absolute gobbledygook.
Yeah.
So, it wouldn't even know where to start. So, but unfortunately,
Yes.
we're in a world where English is going to be the language that's spoken. Love it or hate it, it's going to be what people are speaking. We're speaking it now. It's going to be what everything's written in. So until they do translations and things.
So what we got to do is we have to find somebody who's like really good at writing and like helping people with artist statements and stuff, and see if they would be interested in running AMAs like just on helping people with that. That would be great. That would be, I think, the next evolution for
I
that.
think that'd be a fantastic idea. I reckon people who would appreciate that would understand the value in it definitely, and be very, very grateful for you guys. But I mean, I'd appreciate that. Don't get me wrong. There's, when you going from the magazine, having to proofread all these things and just check things, I got a new appreciation for how good some writers can be. Often when I wasn't looking at it from an editorial point of view, I was just reading the story. And then when I really started to look at it from actually, this is my product that I'm building, I was like, wow, actually, that is really well written. Like that's an incredible paragraph or sentence, and really drags me to the place. So I think the power of writing and words is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to give away like all the information in the photograph, but just to give enough where people are intrigued about what's happening in the photograph. Not to give away all the answers, but to leave some questions available too. I think it takes some skill to be able to do that. So let's move on to the next collection, and that's the next collection is called Street Moment, and this is by Hakan Aydin. So street photography has been the most popular photography category in recent years, perhaps one of the most difficult. This collection, called Street Memories, consists of 10 black and white photographs taken from different angles. Care was taken to adopt a minimalist approach while taking the photographs. Right, and so not a very compelling artist statement to me. So we talked about this yesterday. Also, this photographer is basically kind of just giving the information to people. You said this actually best yesterday, Jordan. Like giving information to people as if they don't understand photography or they're not collectors. Like, this is what street photography is about, and it's a hard genre. And so I don't think that that type of stuff is what really is going to connect to the collectors. Like I'd rather hear more about why you like this battle between light and darkness, what it means to shoot black and white photography, what it means to be out there, and how geometry plays a role in solitude in your work and stuff like that. I'd love to hear something more personal than this artist statement. So I definitely think that this artist statement um, needs some work from me. So looking into the pictures then here, you know, some like you pointed out this one stood out to you right yesterday. You want to
Yeah, I
talk
mean,
about that one? Mhm.
I think the capture's just perfect, isn't it? The way the little boy or girl, I think it's a little boy, by the looks of it, is just perfectly on that line. And what struck me about it was you're not quite sure. Again, it's this questions that keeps me of like, what's going on there? Because for me, it was like, is that a ray of light, or is the ray of light hitting the path, and it's it's both, or is it the path, the change in the pavement, or the rock, or the slabbing? It's really powerful the way the dog's in the shadows, and the dark, and the child. And it's meaningful, it's just like, I don't know how to put it into words, but it's just got something about it, hasn't it? That just makes
Yeah.
you it makes
Mhm.
me attached to it. Like you clearly got the child and like highlighted the importance of childhood and youth. Or I'm not really sure. Maybe it's as a parent, it just strikes me as a bit more. But I think
Yeah, I think it's a feeling of nostalgia, maybe. You know.
yeah. Yeah, I like. Yeah, I think nostalgia sums it up quite well. I mean, and I don't think the fact that someone can't put it into words is like myself. I don't think it's a weakness. I think maybe a better thing. I sometimes think it makes me look at a picture longer, which again I keep going back to. I think the longer you can keep a viewer on your photograph, on your art, then more power to you. That's a really strong thing to do. So there's a couple of others that I mean, I think this whole collection is pretty strong, but there's a couple that really stand out to me after that one, which
Sure.
is
Which ones?
Street Moment 2. I love the use of lead in line, sort of in circular. It's got the what's it called? The composition.
Staircase?
That like no, I mean
Leading
there's like
lines?
there's a
Leading lines?
composition format of like an arch. I forget what it's called.
Rule
Like
of thirds. Rule of
yeah,
thirds?
but no, it's like it's an arch where it sort of keeps going inside itself. It's in a little rectangle. I'll Google it and
Ah.
find out. But it's a term like the perfect. It is the perfect like to how you should be perfectly composing it. It's got an image inside an image inside an image, and it just keeps going for infinity. I forget the term, but I'll find it. But
Yeah.
that's really strong. Where you sort of come down from the outside, you keep coming in, and then you find your subject in the middle. It keeps me guessing, and I think there's a little on it. I would have put a little bit less of that white on the side. I would have probably moved over and gone a bit to the left of it, but I think it's a strong image. I'm really attracted to, and this is, I think, maybe something that's more for me personally. And again, this might be to nostalgia because it was a style that I find myself playing with or using when I first got into photography. Was this really simplistic scene of the bike, which is Street Moment 7. The depth to it and the sort of I don't know. There's something about it that just the bike. I like the way that he's caught him on right on the thirds, that lamppost and the bird or the seagull adds some depth to it. There's something about that shot that just I kind of like. Like I don't, it's very simple and it sort of almost looks like it's not been tried too hard, but it's just caught the moment.
Yeah. Everything sort of falls into place, not in a way
Yeah,
where he's created it to fall into place, but how life just kind of fell into place, and he was just
yeah,
there to snap it at the right time. Yeah.
and it's nice on my eyes.
This one
Like
stood
it's
out to me
important to
too,
me.
Tim.
Yeah, that was my neck. That was another
Yeah.
one that stood out to me. I mean, again, I really like that. That's the again, this sort
Boom.
of perfect composition of something coming in, and it's just you're like, oh wow, and you don't notice the bike straight away, or the person on the bike. I think that's a bike, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's strong. Like really, that's really strong image. And I like the editing on these as well. The way they, they're strong and contrasty there, and they work well together. The imagery all together sits pretty well in terms of an editing, in terms of tonal range, and I think that's
Yeah.
nice.
It feels very cohesive
Yeah,
in his use of light, geometry, and tonality of the black and white. It's really, really
yeah,
great. So let's take a look. What do the descriptions look like? So got the license information about the photo size, 1 of 1, photographer name. He's hit the nail on the head.
yeah.
Got all of the description stuff, and if you wanted to add properties, you could add properties into there. But that's really well. Nice.
I think that's pretty good, isn't it? I want to add one more
Yeah.
thing about the what I assume is a conscious decision, but the zonal system that for exposure, and especially true in say street moment number 9. He's got the whole tonal range, or she is a he, isn't it? I think I think probably a he.
I think it's
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the zonal system exposure there, you've got your zones of 0, up to 9, or 1 to 9. So you've got that whole, you've got your bright whites going into your mid grays, into your solid blacks, into your dark grey, into your mid grays, dark grays, solid blacks, and it adds a lot of contrast to the scene. Like it's a good use of exposure and technicality in the picture. I think and that's not just in Street Moment 9. That goes throughout. There's a full range of contrast of the zones for the black and white exposure, which I think is, if you can master that, if you can get that in your pictures, that's for a black and white especially, that's a real skill. And definitely,
really well done.
it keeps you in the picture as well. It keeps the person there for longer. Again, I keep going back to this, but they'll be more interested by it because it adds that depth to it that it doesn't, that color sometimes has, but you can still get that extra layer of depth in the black and white. So there's a reason Ansel Adams was such a fan, or developed it and was such a fan of that technique, and that cameras still use it.
So what?
I was going to say there's a reason we still, all cameras still meter off meter at zone 5, but they all still meter off the zonal system. Every camera system you're using, every internal system or light meter is still using the zonal system to predict exposure. So there's a reason.
Yeah,
I'll just say the
I normally shoot a spot metering, and I make it very tiny, my focus point, and I'll put it like right exactly on where I want it to meter. That's basically what I've been doing a lot on the ferry, especially in golden hours where I just want this golden light to just kind of drape over my subject and everything else around it to sort of be dark. So I like to do a lot of spot metering lately. That's something I've
You could totally
to.
tell when I saw your work yesterday, when I was looking through some of your stuff, that you could tell that you spot metered. And I mean, for me, that's. I mean, I grew up on there was only spot metering, so everything for me is done by spot metering. And then I'm lucky enough that I feel that I've done this for 20 years, that now I just know what I'm going to need and what I need to meter off. I mean, it's one of those skills. I think that it can take a little while, but once you master it, it really it can take your photography to another level. Again, you can see in your work, like you totally was obvious that you used that method to master that light and harness it to give the depth that was there with. Whereas if you just hit it on zone 5 and just gone with an all out, that I think a lot of your images would have looked a bit just soft and fadey and would have needed a lot of dehaze and stuff to get that done. Whereas camera like you do,
if I don't spot meter and choose exactly what I want to meter, a lot of times, especially on the ferry boat, because the boat's dark, but then there's a lot of bright light coming from the windows, then a lot of times my metering system wants to blow the highlights super white on the windows. Or it wants to, make it super dark on everything else. And so like, I try to put a little tiny point just on the face of someone that has a bit of light coming through and sort of let everything else.
Because if you do anything else, if you let it go through the whole just put it, I forget what the other, I'm terrible with technical stuff on cameras. I don't even know which button does aperture and shutter speed, or which dial, sorry, but I do when I pick it up, like, but if you let it just meter to zone 5, everything looks flat. It's mid gray, and obviously you bring that to color, it's just it almost looks like you put Vaseline over your lens a lot of the time. Well, it looks like what a raw file looks like, even when you've got it right. You get that raw file back and you're like, the first time you get one, you're like, what? Like and then you're like, oh, I get it. Okay, cool. Like, we're good. But that's, what zone 5 will do if you just let it do its thing. You've got to master that light and harness it, definitely.
Yeah, so I mean, outside of that, I mean, like the last sale on the collection was 3 months ago. I think the prices are good. I think that I think it's really good work, and so I would question where what the artist has been doing as far as having his work in the eyes of the community and collectors and stuff like that, and have they been attending spaces and just whatever to get the work seen, because there's not a lot of favorites on these, and there's a lot of beautiful work here, and that's something else to talk about is um, I guess I'd have to dive deeper into their Twitter and stuff like that. I'm not going to do that now, but to find out what they're doing. So outside of that, I think that the work speaks a lot better than the actual artist statement does. That is kind of just telling us about what street photography is in a sense. And then the titles are all the same: street 10, 4, 5, 6. I've seen this a lot lately, and I don't know if it's because people just want to get their collection out quickly, or they don't want to sit and try to think of a title that's compelling. But I think it's helpful to do that. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think you've nailed on the head there with that. I think there could be. I think we talked about last night again. The street moment 1, 2. I think there's some. It may just be that people don't. They actually think that's the right thing to do, because sometimes it might be. They're not. They think they've got it right, and it's just they're not understanding the space or the collectors or where we're at, or because in certain scenarios it could work. If it's a real conscious decision, and maybe not in this space, but I think that is probably just more people not realizing or not knowing or not, again, if you did this 3 months ago, I mean, a lot of this space has moved on a lot in 3 months, hasn't it? I mean, I don't think this whole licensing thing was being talked about too much in 3 months ago, really. It wasn't a topic, so, I mean, Sloika had it, but, and then obviously Alpha's now really, I mean, I've always been a fan of it, and I didn't speak up because I didn't really, I wasn't a collector or not a big collector. And I didn't really think about it, but if you in the traditional world, you'd always be having these sort of you'd have a contract with how you're buying the image, what you're doing. If it's a one of one, you'd be getting like a letter of authenticity. Like it wouldn't just be the artist takes it off a wall and gives it to you, And so anyway, you've moved on.
No, I'm just looking and listening to you. The space is constantly changing, and so like we're our job is to stay and adapt to those changes, and put the word out about what direction we should move in when those changes happen, and how we can implement that and help as many people get on board with those changes. So,
and I think actually what Alpha's done is really important for the artist as well. Actually, probably in my opinion, he's done more for the artist than for the collectors by doing what he's done. And I don't know. I can't remember if he, I'm sure he's aware of that. I've no doubt he's aware of that, actually. So I think, I know there was a bit of friction when it was being talked about by some people. I think they misunderstood that what he was actually doing, the benefit was giving us the power more than actually the collectors. I think.
Yeah, and there's a few collectors that are doing stuff like that, like the unknown collector as well, and Sunny, and just a few other people in this space that you can tell are here for like the right reasons and collect for the art and want to see the artists succeed. So that's amazing.
Agreed.
So Foundry work is what we're looking at here. This is the next collection. This is by Volkan Karagelogu. That's a hard one, but so I'll read this. So casting works reveal casting by putting metals melted at very high temperatures in the mold. So just from reading this here, first of all, Foundry workers, you put 2 S's, so I'd fix that and just Foundry workers, right? So just some grammatical things. High temperatures it should just be one word here, so we can get you some help with some of this in the artist statement. But let's I'll read this again. Casting works reveal casting by putting metals melted at very high temperatures in the molds of the desired shape. The job done is very difficult, tiring, and heavy work. They have to work to make money and make a living. You want to say a living, not alive, so make a living. Foundry workers generally work at night as they are exposed to high temperatures during the summer season. So these guys clearly have like a really difficult job. And so our first impression when we looked at this is like, wow, there's a lot of beautiful images here, a lot of like eye candy. It's gonna make my eye just light up like looking at some of these. Like I love this molten color. Once again we see these titles that are just Foundry Workers 1, Foundry Workers 2, Foundry Workers 3, when we were saying, like, you probably come up with some titles here that have to do with, like you said, like the word spark in this one, or even if just spark is the title, or, like ignite, molten, something. There's a lot of ways where you can have a title that doesn't give away the photograph, but just brings some interest, without just having it be the same as the collection name. And so I have it sorted by oldest here, which is interesting. Normally, when I sort it by oldest, I actually like the way it looks better, because it usually means that's the way they formatted it, 1, 2, 3. But when I actually liked it better before I put oldest, because it seems like, to me at least, they put some of these shots that were very similar. 3 guys with these melting pots, 3 guys with the melting pots, these 2 guys. Some of the stronger shots they just put boom right at the front here. It's the way I see it. But lots of beautiful stuff. You want to go into any of these, and Jordan, I'll open it up and to talk about it.
Yeah. I want to just go into the description at the front of the artist statement. I think I'm still not totally sure where we even are or why we're here. Like, I like this collection as look at it, but I don't know where we are. I'm assuming Turkey, because he's from Turkey, I believe, in his descriptions, but he doesn't actually say where this is or why he's there or why this story needs telling, which I think we can. Luckily, the work you can sort of get an idea, but I think it could get more emotion to it, definitely, to where we are, and give us a sense of place a bit more, because there is no clear. You know where you are, but you don't know where you are outside of the situation. If that's making sense.
Yeah.
I think that I thought it was really interesting what you said, because I think you've got it in the pieces that are collected, haven't you? That I've got showing at the bottom. Is that right? Yeah, the first 3 are the 3 that are, no, it's not, is it? No, I've got it in the order it was collected, I believe, or the 3
Yeah, you could
pieces
do that.
collected.
So I like to give the artist the benefit of the doubt and sort it by oldest, and that's because OpenSea doesn't list the photos in the way that you want them to be looked at. And so if I put oldest, it goes by 1, 2, 3, 4, because he uploaded them. This one he wants first, that one he wants second. And so I think that's the best way to put it. I just, what I was saying was I think he put 3 shots right here that are very strong, like right at the beginning. I don't think that's always the best idea,
The reason, I think is that, well, I've got it the other way around, though, basically. But the last 3, and they look almost, when you see them, because if you do the last 3, they're on their own. It almost looks like 2 collections to me. Mm-hmm. If you take the way they're formatted, which I think is quite, that those 3 shots that have been collected really stand out. I think, or stand out more, which I think is. It's a hard one, because I don't think you'd have spotted it necessarily when you did the collection. I think it's an unfortunate chain of events that if someone's collected it or has got it on the setting I've got it on, that it could actually be an off-putting thing for the rest of the collection, because you see these 3 that almost look like a standalone collection in their Foundry Workers. But yeah, they're also spelt wrong as well, actually, I've just noticed, or some of them are spelt wrong in the captions as well. We've got workers and wokers, which is, again, I guess, a language barrier, but I think those are easily changed without any gas fee, you said. Oh, no, maybe not the ones that have been collected, but I guess if they've been collected, it's not the end of the world. Unless Alpha's still listening, because I think he owns one of them.
Yeah, I mean, he is doing well in the properties and adding all the licensing, one information and stuff in here. Which one were you saying was had some of the spelling wrong?
Number Foundry Workers, it's Work S. It's not got the R in it. Work S and Foundry Workers.
Oh, right here. I see that here.
Yeah, the Foundry Workers 3 has got the R missing, but they've got it in all the others. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the importance of just kind of like double and triple checking all of your stuff and having other eyes. Like, so if you have a language barrier, like, try to get someone who is English speaking to just take a look at, and this is why, at MetaJungle, we're going to be doing pre-mint AMAs that they're coming out here shortly, where before anyone even pays gas or mints or does any of that stuff, that we're going to look at their template and their layout and help them with this kind of stuff before they
And so they may think, oh, they're minting tomorrow. Their project's going to come out tomorrow, and then we may look at it and say, well, the artist statement still needs help. The description and the properties still need help, and so then we may have to push it. Say like we recommend pushing back the mint for 3 or 4 days or maybe a week or so, and let's do it right the first time and make it polished before we get some things out there and then it sells. That's the problem, is that when it sells to a collector, you no longer can change those descriptions and stuff like that anymore. So my next series that's coming out, it's going to be 100, and so I'm going to have to really sit, and it's going to take me a long time, probably 3 days, just to upload the images and make sure that everything is written perfectly, and that that I did it right the first time, because the mistakes on the blockchain is not fun at all. So
No,
definitely
agree. I think one thing I do is, again, I write everything in Word or in a document before I put it in, which, even the titles, just to make sure that nothing's picked up. Because I know, especially after you sort of look at a word for long enough, sometimes it can be like, am I even spelling that right? Like, as a native speaker. And then you're like, okay, just need to confirm that with Word or spell check or Grammarly or whatever it might be. But I think, going back to the pictures on this as well, I mean, it's got something about it. The storytelling, it's got a sense of place. It's, you can get the hardship that, the tough work these fellas are doing. Like, I think the piece that stands out to me is I believe Alpha collected that one. There's two actually that really stand out, which are Foundry workers. 3.
This one.
Yeah. I mean, that's an amazing shot. That's really, the depth.
I like these guys pouring over here too. I love this pouring shot.
Yeah, that's my second. Well, those two are both equally my favorite. I mean, it's got the action, hasn't it? And then again, going Foundry Workers 8, which is still available if anyone's listening, like that. I think that's a nice shot. It's a strong shot. Yeah. The contrast between. I think you pulled that up earlier, didn't you, as well? Yeah, I mean, the light on their face.
Yeah, I pulled it up because it stood out to me. I love the lighting on them.
Yeah.
But I also love that the room is dark, yet there's enough light that I could see all these things on the walls. I could see everything on the walls and all these tools and stuff, and the contrast between the blue and the warm and the cold, really beautiful.
Yeah. And that blue tone, you summed it up perfectly then, with the light on their face. I mean, it really highlights how bright and therefore how hot and how, that lava or that molten is. It's giving off that much light to them in basically what looks like a dark, blue room, very dark, dull room, and it's just glowing. It's strong, really strong. I think that goes for the others as well, where it's done that. Number 3 and 2? Was it number 3 and 1? Again, the glow that's coming off that. It's all really strong. And I like it. I like this collection a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing I would, there's nothing I'd really pull from the collection. It's just, I would say Foundry Workers 2 and 6 seems kind of a bit similar when you look at it from far. Like this shot here and then this one here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this one's already collected, so it's like, yeah.
I think if you wanted to move one as well, if you wanted to do it, Fat 7 is the one that really stands out because it hasn't got any of the, even like 4 where it's got little bits in the background. You've got the lava or the molten, those glows of orange. Number 7 has none of that. It's it sort of stands out as not being cohesive to me because it just hasn't got that bright orange tone in it anywhere. But
here's the problem with this. Here's the problem with this shot for me too, is that like I don't do this type of work, so I want to know like what is this guy doing right now. But if I go to the description, casting works reveals casting. He just copy and pasted the main description into here. So I don't. I'd rather this be telling me like what he's doing here. Because otherwise, to me, it just looks like a bunch of big, huge, large coins on the floor.
Yeah,
and I don't really know. But like, this is where I would like a description to know like, what is the process in this, and why is he doing this? And then like that description could actually make the photo stronger for me. I think that's an example where
could actually make it
I
stronger.
think as well, like again, going back to in order of what they collected, I don't know this, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the one that got collected last. If and when this collection gets close to selling out,
Yeah.
and I think, if you're left with that one piece, that description can pull you through and get you to that sellout point. If that's what we all want, what everyone's chasing. I mean, I don't personally think it's that necessary, but I know that is a big step that people have been bred into, and they need to sell out before they release new work. And I figure you could be sat on that for a while, but a really powerful description, could definitely pull it through.
Pull it through. Agree. Cool. All right, so I think we can move on to the next one then. I think we definitely covered this one.
Are we moving at a good enough pace for you? Just to make sure I'm not going on too long.
I mean, we're an hour and a half in, and we're about halfway there, I guess. I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
Depends.
Yeah, as long as it's not going too slow for you, I don't know. I can cut it down.
No, I mean, it's not going too slow for me. Like, I love talking about work, and I've done these sessions for like 3 hours at a time. But like, if you need to step away at any point, you can.
No, I'm fine.
I'm having fun.
We waffled about my magazine for a bit, didn't we? So we probably are. The second half will probably actually take up less time, if that makes sense. So we won't do a re-waffle about me at the end, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So this one is destruction of the city. And then hold on, I've got I have a screenshot here with the artist's name. I actually can you pull up? Oh, it's Mustafa. I'm sorry. Mustafa. Kokakak. I don't know how to say that exactly. My bad. All right. So destruction of the city. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read the artist statement here. So I guess it starts off photographer's name, bio, AFIAP honor, Turkish photographer based in Istanbul. Collection. All right, refugee, immigrant, or asylum seeker, whatever they're called, they're all set out with the hope of a new life. Especially in the last half century, the world has witnessed a migration movement. A migration from the east to the west is the most striking. Although mostly for economic reasons, the main reasons for migration are pressures, life safety, and wars. Most of the people fleeing these wars migrate to crowded cities. Refugees who try to exist economically in the increasing urban population work hard. As a result of both change and transformation. And then they have the licensing information here below. So this, I think this is a pretty good artist statement. I like that they're telling us about, refugees and people have to leave for certain reasons and economic struggles. And so it's called Destruction of the City. There's 8 items, 0.1. That's, obviously an attractive price point, a good artist statement. And so we're taking a look at the photographs. So taking a look from far away and not digging deep on like each photograph feels a little repetitive in some of the shots. We talked about this yesterday about there not being too many different perspectives here. A lot of these shots are just sort of head on, and so there's a lot of similarities and there's a lot of distance from the subjects where we talked about like we opened up this shot here, right? And so there's a lot going on at this table here, and these people are out here. There's a fire and stuff, but I mean, I know we're talking about destruction here and rubble, but there's a lot of that in the other shots. And so for like this shot specifically, I'd like for the photographer to have been much closer, and I'd love to see the expression on this man's face and this kid's smile. But it's just all too far away, and I think the photograph lies more in here and not just this whole scene. And so I think we talked yesterday a lot about how many of those shots could be that way. And so, when I opened up this one, you mentioned you were like, yeah, like this, and you brought up that quote from that photographer that goes, how does it go again?
We finally got it. It's John McCullen's that if your photos aren't good enough, you're probably not close enough.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
I mean, Yeah, I mean, he's a war photographer as well, and obviously this is this is kind of similar. Like, I mean, this is a very similar sort of genre. I mean, it's what we're talking about. And I think this shot here, you get a feel, you know that there's destruction around. That's quite obvious, but you also get an idea of these women, of these ladies, of what's going on, the emotion, the feeling. What you feel connected to it. You feel like you're the third person in that shot. Whereas going back to the one that you suggested or put up, it just looks like it's taken from standing level, from eye level, and I want to know more about these guys. Like, what are they doing there? Why are they set up there? Why is that basketball there? Why is there a fire? Why? Why? I guess, like, what's going on? Like, and I think you could get that if you got closer to these guys.
Yeah, I'm also interested technically in, like, is it a missed focus, or is it just too slow of a shutter speed? Because we have, like, they're all quite out of focus too. So, like, I don't know if they nailed the focus, like, on this tree over here, or back on the buildings, or on these rocks, but I think the focus should probably be nailed around here. And like I said, getting closer, even if it's just close enough to, like, still be able to see the basketball in the image and the fire, and some of the water jugs leaned over. But I can't get the expressions and everything that I want from that distance. Descriptions look pretty good here. No indication of one in the description, but they do have it in the properties, and a lot of good information in the properties. So I think our main points on this was, like, that, yeah, the getting closer, but not only that, like, when I open up a documentary series that really stands out to me, most of the time there's a multitude of different perspectives. There's close telephoto shots. There's a shot from above looking down on the rubble. There's a really low perspective. There's a close up on the on the on the people and their emotions. There's close ups on, maybe there's macro shots of decay. But in this series, there's just a lot of that same head on shooting. And so, this shot, I could have been a bit closer, but even so, I really still do love this shot. I think it's close enough for me to see some of these expressions in the fire, and still yet have these newer modern buildings in the background, juxtaposed with this sort of this just landfill that they're living on, of just rubble. So I think that shot was successful, but I don't think we need a lot of far away shots like that. And I think we talked about this one in the series feeling like it kind of stood out and didn't fit, in the sense that maybe there's, like, there's no real people in this shot. The lighting seems like a little less a little less eerie than the others. It's a different time of day. You got real blue skies. We got, like, a sun star on the building here. It's very shiny yellows. I like the shot, like the no war message, and the green tree on the yellow, and all that. But we felt, right, Jordan maybe felt a little
I
out of
think
place.
I've got a feeling of why this was done, or how it was done, and how it could be resolved. To me, I don't feel like, bar maybe 5, and I'm not even totally convinced by 5. And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but I don't feel like the photographer connected with these people in these shots. I think they were a viewer on the sidelines of what is going on. I'd love to know if they actually started conversations with these people, if they actually connected with these people on a human level. Because myself, when I approach someone, I mean, I make sure they're comfortable, that I can get in. I want to get into their life and into their. I say into their face isn't the right word, because I don't want to be in their face. But I want to be. I want to be in their group. We're talking. We're laughing. We're having fun. We're discussing. We're like you would on the street. It looks like everything's taken from an observer's point of view, rather than really getting in and understanding these people and what they're doing. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to stand back here and I'm going to take it because it's kind of interesting, but I'm a little bit and I get that, but I was going to use the word a little bit timid to go and just go, hey, like, I mean, I've got it, but I didn't have it when I started with. I'm now very, I just go up and start talking to people, and hey, what are you doing? Like, even if it's just like, why are you, these guys that take Destruction 3, like, I'd be like, okay, what's going on? What are you fellas up to? Like, just start talking to them without the camera in my hand, even, or without just in my hand around my shoulder, or whatever. And then, start to get close, look at what they're doing, and sort of integrate myself into the scene, so that of what they're doing, so that when I pick up a camera, I'm right in the action and I really know what's going on. And it feels like this is just, I'm witnessing from the outside of a box in a way, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. I don't think that's out of step to say at all. I think that it doesn't feel like they've the photographer has actually built rapport and a relationship with the members of this community. And so it looks like they're more of an outsider perspective, like you said, because and there's some great shots in here of an outsider perspective like that. But I think it could be taken to the next level. Had you sat with these people for days and maybe learned about who they were and what they went through and stuff like that. And so, not to say that the artist didn't do that, I don't know, but it doesn't appear as if they did. So I do agree on those
Yeah,
points.
I think that's what you said. Rapport is the one, and I would say I fully understand that, like, it's a hard thing for some people to do, just go up and talk to strangers. But I've always found, like, anywhere in the world that I've gone up to people, if you go up with a smile on your face and looking approachable. I mean, I'm a big guy as well. Like, I'm 6'4", so often that could be quite daunting. A 6'4" man walking up to you could be like, whoa, I mean, I don't look aggressive or anything, but it's a big person. And whereas,
well, geez, I mean, I'd like to be 6'4" when I'm doing my candid street photography. Maybe less people would be apt to try to challenge me.
I definitely don't get. I never get anyone come and try and rob me or like really be too. You don't tend to go for the biggest guy on the street, do you? Wherever you are, even if it's a rough place, he's always an easier target than the 6'4" man generally.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty lucky like that. I'm not so good on the plane seat to get there though. Like,
yeah, you don't have the leg room that I have.
No.
Wow, but yeah, no, I think some solid points hit on this. Interesting price point is 0.1, but then there's a shot that's 0.2. And I don't necessarily think the shot that's double the price is better than all the rest. I actually think the one that Leslie Spurlock picked up is better than that shot, and she picked it up at 0.1. I think this is more compelling. But yeah, it's really what I have on that series. I'd say try to build more rapport in a documentary series, and get close to your subject at times, and that's probably why they didn't get that close to subjects. It feels a bit timid on their front of the artist, and how they're taking these shots. So
if the artist is here or they listen to this, I hope you don't take this the wrong way. Like, this is really, we're not. It's meant in the right way, like to try and help and constructive criticism on our point. I hope we're not talking out of turn here. I think that's worth saying, because I do think you're on the right track 100%. I think there's a story here, definitely. Like, there's a really strong story, and what you've chosen, your subject matter is powerful, I believe. And I think the fact that Leslie's picked up a piece, and that's probably my favorite piece from the collection as well. I mean, having someone like Leslie pick up a piece like that is, I think, quite it's a respectful thing. She knows what she's doing, Leslie.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and the photographer knows what they're doing too. They know how to.
Oh, yeah.
They know how to take a compelling photo. They understand composition and stuff like that. It's just that they need to move to the next level of that next level of sort of fear. I mean, I was terrified at first when I was walking on the ferry for my first few times, and I'm pointing a telephoto lens at people and like hoping they don't see me, and if they do, or they're gonna yell at me or want to fight me, and like, and stuff. And so over time you learn how to sort of move a bit differently and move a bit more confidently. You learn to smile if someone catches you, or talk to them if they catch you, and show them photos of other people you've taken, and
I feel that that's my job as a street photographer. If I'm going to publish works, is to not display those people in a negative light. And so I think that's a huge thing, is that I'm not, is that, I think smiling goes a long way. And in my work, I'm not, in my work, I'm not specifically talking to people, but it's a bit different. It's not really, it's not, I guess it's not documentary in its truest form. Although I am documenting people on the ferry. I don't know. I don't know how where that fits. It's kind of a blurry place. But yeah.
I think what you said there is, a smile goes a long way. That is very true. Like, it settles people down that you're coming in peace. Like, there's nothing, no ulterior motive. It's like, I'm just here and want to talk to you or want to be involved and want to know what's going on. So yeah, that's a really great point I think you made there, even though it's nothing to do with actual photography, but it's really valid.
Well, yeah, I mean, because if you smile, then it's a lot of times it's contagious, and so then they smile. I think for the
Yeah,
most
exactly.
part, when you go up to people and you ask them to take their photograph, for the most part, at least if you move with a bit of confidence and you smile in a bit, then most people will be flattered that you do want to take their photograph and learn
Yeah,
their story. So
I definitely find that, 100%. If you take the time to actually be interested in them and show that you're not just using them as a subject.
yeah. On that note, I think we got to move on to the next collection.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah, so this is Tales from Pushkar, and this is by Himanshu Pagaria. And so this is a Sloika collection. So let's see. He's got a description here on this one. So this is the individual picture. So I actually have to.
You're looking for the collection description.
All series. Let's just go to all series
Yeah.
and then click this. This is what I want. Okay. Tales of Pushkar.
Yeah.
It's a collection of 12 one-to-one photographs documented over the last 3 years at Pushkar Camel Fair. Pushkar Fair is one of Asia's largest camel, horse, and cattle fairs. Apart from the trading of livestock, it's important pilgrimage season for Hindus to Pushkar Lake. Every year, nearly 500,000 visitors descend on the tiny desert town of Pushkar in rural Rajasthan to attend Rajasthan. Okay, it's actually I thought it would be pronounced like an H. To attend the annual Pushkar Camel Fair. This 5-day festival is held during the full moon of the Hindu month of Kartik, which usually falls in October, last or November start. The main purpose of the festival is trade, and it's the place to go if you want to buy or sell a camel. Oh, that's interesting. It's a camel trading festival. So I got the chance of documenting this fair 2 times, first in 2019, another in 2021. Great experience indeed. All images are shot in this time period only. Every picture is a story in itself. The collection contains some pure raw moments that I've witnessed throughout the fair. So 12 in the series, 12 available. That means the artist has no sales yet. So like I like to tell people that are listening in the audience, if you like the work, I think that it's really beautiful work. It doesn't cost any ETH to go and share, do a quote tweet, share anyone in the collection, anyone today that we've talked about work today, and maybe write a little something about how the collection made you feel, so get some more eyes on those subjects. And if I see that, I'll certainly retweet. So tag me. So yeah, looking through the series, I first want to say, before we start, we talked about in the other series about starting strong and ending strong, and I think this is something that this photographer did really well. So I think this opening shot is really strong. I love the composition, how the man is just in the center. It's like he's eye to eye with this camel. These camels are just majestically, framing him. Nothing's really overlapping in a way that's hard. And then the ending image is just like, this is just an absolutely beautiful portrait. It reminds me of it reminds me of a Steve McCurry portrait, probably one of his best portraits. I think
this is one of the better portraits I think I've seen in the space in a long time. I really, really love it. So I think he started strong and ended really strong as well. So on that note, let's look at it in dark mode, and we'll just go through and we'll just take a look at some of the images. Another really strong portrait. Now this section here, right, where we talked about yesterday, this feels a little bit repetitive. So going from number 6, this shot, to 7, I mean 6 and 7, it just the color tonality, the the whole composition, everything. It seems a little bit too similar. Like I probably wouldn't have put them next to each other, or I probably would have had just one of these two in the series, and I don't think it would have been this one. I think this one is the weaker shot for me. I like these ones where he's seeing through layers, and this cool conversation happening down there. So Jordan,
Yeah.
any of these you want me to stop on, and you agree that there's some repetition here?
Yeah, I agree. I want to just start off from where you started. I think that obviously you hadn't. I've been to this camel fair and I've done a story on it. I think back in 2008 or 7 or something like that. I did a story on this, and I've been back a couple of times with groups, and so I was familiar with what it is, and I know exactly what goes on. But without stating our turn, you obviously didn't, and I think from what they've put, and I guess that's going to be a case with a lot of people. But I think the description at the beginning tells you, sets it up as like this is what it is really well. It gives you, you know, exactly why are we here? Why is there a load of guys sat around with camels? Like what's, you know, I think that's really important to add context to this. You know, for me, it seemed like unnecessary actually, but then when you think of it outside, you're like, actually, I know what it is. So I think that's really good. I agree with the repetitiveness of some of it. I mean, there's some really strong images like the Tales from Pushkar, the one you're on, number 1. Number 8, I believe it is really strong. Probably my favourite. I mean, that's a really, really nice image. Yeah. I think there's, I think there's, you know, I think there's definitely areas you could cut it down maybe.
I think it could work as 10. I think the series would work well as 10 and not 12.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would probably lose
7.
7, and I would lose number 9, and I think you'd have a tighter collection. I'm not a massive fan of 11, I have to say, just because it's at night. Mm-hmm. I know 2 is, but not that I have a problem with night shots. Just it doesn't. You've got this like a lot of it has that warm, low sun, that typical. Well, I don't know if anyone who's been to India in that time of year, from sort of October through to sort of December, January time. It gets very sort of hazy, misty, like it's not that warm, but it's got this like really soft light that is portrayed really well here, and because that's what it looks like. So I think I'd want to keep to that rather than just suddenly have an image that is not. It could be almost anywhere, that shot as well. I mean, I know the portraits could, but that could be, he could be doing anything, that fella. So yeah, I'd miss a few down, but I think again, you said number 12, is it? There, the end shot, really strong. I mean, straight away we both said it, didn't we? That looks like a McCurry portrait. I mean, the man and just the editing style as well, that it's really well edited, it's really well processed. I mean, and
so beautiful.
Yeah. And I think you said number 5. I'm a big fan of these, like, you know, when someone's smoking and it's just smoke billowing out of a portrait, and especially in somewhere like India where that's, you know, it's a very common sight, so it really makes you feel, it brings you into what's going on here. I like number 2.
It creates it in his eye too.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's cool, isn't it? Yeah, it's almost like he's got a glass eye or something. It's like, you like, look in my eye, look into my eye. Like, it's I really like the whole collection. We both did, didn't we? When we see it, like I think we're trying to pick holes in it just just to try and, you know, give some feedback to try and where things could be improved. But I think generally, I mean, with the descriptions, with everything it's got, you know exactly what's going on. You've got the sense of place. It's clearly explained. I mean, I like it. I like number 3 as well. That's kind of a cool image. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know, like his
it is.
expression. I like, it's just, the way they're looking at each other is quite cool. I don't know, there's something about that. I want to know what's going on, and I like the fact that he's close. He's in that moment with them, and the photographer obviously knows what was going on. I think.
So there's
You know,
shots that is 0.2 and there's shots that is 0.25. My favorite shots is 0.2. This one's 0.2. This one's 0.2. And then you have some that is 0.25. This
is
one's
that maybe?
0.
I'd be
Yeah.
interested to hear from the artist if that was a tactic actually, because I'm struggling to believe that the artist sees those 2 shots and thinks they're the weakest 2. So I'm wondering whether they thought I'll price the 2 best lower and actually get some collectors to come in, and then it starts the ball rolling. I don't know.
I hope that's not the idea. I don't like that tactic.
No, I didn't. Sorry, if no one likes that, I didn't mean to. Sorry to the artist. I wasn't trying to pin that on them. I was just thinking. It seems. I was trying to think of a reason why, because to us, I agree with you. They're the 2 best shots in this. Maybe you could argue number 1 is your favorite, but I think those 3 are the top 3 contenders, and to have the top 2 of those at a lower price does seem odd to me. But
yeah. And what about this portrait? This is great too. 0.2. Yeah, so he's
which are the 0.25 ones? Which are
0.25 is the first one, which is a great shot. I agree. This shot's a 0.25. I think it's a great shot, but I don't. I mean, I'm not choosing it over this if I had to.
No,
I'm not choosing it over this if I had to.
Tweet us if the artist's here. If you don't want to come up and speak, tweet us and let us know. I'd really like to know the thought behind this.
Yeah.
Drop me a DM.
Yeah, and then 11. I agree. It seems a little out of place because it's like one of the only shots at night. And while I do appreciate backlit shots, this just seems strangely backlit. It almost makes it feel a little bit fake in a weird way.
Yeah, no, I get that from it.
It feels very strange.
I think if you had to move 2, I'd remove 11 and number 9. I would be keeping that. 11 and 9 would be the 2 I would have to remove to get a tight 10 collection. The more I look at 7, I know that was one you said.
7 is for me. I don't know. It might be 7 and 9. 7 and 9. I don't really get the the camel with the head straight up like this. It's overexposed. The expression on this gentleman is just, it's not really doing much for me. And then this shot here. While I understand what the artist was going for, like a frame within a frame, I don't know that it really works for me. And then
it doesn't look wild enough, I think, as well. That's the thing. All the others you feel a bit more like remote almost, and that feels like you're at a watering hole. I know that is the case there, but the impression.
This also hurts the composition. This guy sitting here, right here on the right.
Yeah.
That it's distracting to me. Like I'd rather see the camel's legs and then the camel's legs down in the reflection. Yeah, this is one of the weaker shots.
One of the other things that we talked about last night, I don't know if we picked it up on this collection, but there's different crops here. So you've got some what look like 5x4s or 8x10s. There's some 3:2 ratios. There's different ratios, which we both agreed. I think like we talked about in the Cuba collection of just having one portrait was a bit weird, but I think sometimes having not all the same aspect ratio is a bit, for me, I don't know, it's something I'd like to not see so much. I'd like to keep an even aspect ratio of whatever the format is that you've chosen to go with.
Yeah, so here like this is we have a lot of repetitive shots where the camels are framing someone, right? So this is definitely a better one where it's framing someone than I would say, this one. And so then I don't think we need 2 there. I mean, we've got this one where the camels are framing people. I think that's the best version of the camels framing people. There's this one or this either 8 or number 1, which I don't know. Maybe my internet's not letting me go to it, but there's a lot of repetitive ones like that. So I'd have probably made this a series of 10 instead of a series of 12. But either way, you got really good properties, license information.
It's priced right, and there's some really phenomenal photographs in this collection. So I think it's really good, and I hope we get more eyes on it.
Agreed.
Yeah. But we can move on to the next collection, the Women of Anatolia.
Let's do it.
Let's see. And this is by Mustafa C. All right, so if you're a woman in Anatolia, life is much more difficult for you. Anatolian women continue their lives against harsh climatic conditions. All of the weight of life is on their shoulders. Before the winter season shows its harsh face, carrying wood for heating and preparing winter food for feeding are almost the most important duties of Anatolian women. So the women are carrying the wood. Geez. In addition to this war against nature, they also have duties such as raising their children, providing them with a safe environment. Anatolian women sometimes carry wood and sometimes their children on their backs. All of these reasons leave Anatolian women no choice but to be strong. In fact, this power was inherited from their ancestors. I think it's a great artist statement. I really do.
Agreed. I do. Yeah.
Yeah, great artist statement. It makes me I don't know. It makes me really understand what a hard life for the women in Anatolia is like, and have some compassion for that and understanding. And then I think that's enough information to not give away the images, but just to give us enough to go into them now, and appreciate them. And so, right off the bat, like these last three are just really really powerful, right? Like beautiful
Yeah.
images. Let's look at these.
Yeah, I remember when seeing Alpha post one of these. I think the Surrender.
Wow, like
Yeah,
it feels like a wonderland, like a winter wonderland. It feels otherworldly. It's such a beautiful, beautiful photograph. And look at their climbing up. It's like they have these baskets on the back, the garments and wardrobes, beautiful. This shot is really powerful too. Winter's
agreed.
Ordeal. I mean, oh man, look at the color. That blue is gorgeous. You could see it's cold because of that like foggy wind, kind of. Like in the scarf, she's holding on to her scarf like it's just cold. And they're carrying this, not light. That's not lightweight. They're carrying all this wood back. Like this is not something you see in North America. Right? Like this is just not something you see. So I guess I'm looking at all collected ones right now, but they are my favorite ones. You want to talk about this one? I know you really love this one too.
Yeah, this one. I mean, it reminds me of Afghanistan, like just because of the sort of not like where it is, just lots of the photography that photographers I worked with and stuff, and some of the shots I remember seeing them and thinking, oh wow, the sort of hanging washing in this sort of brief like open spaces like this, and I'm going for my war things and conflict stuff, but I just think it's such a powerful image. Again, it's the contrast of the colors, the low angle just adding the dramatics to it, the sky popping it off. I mean, the angles, it really leads you through. I mean, you get it, you get what she's going through, like you get what's happening here, and you get that it's tough, and it's not an easy place to exist, I guess. Like
Yeah.
And that goes for the other two. I mean, you can really feel, like you said, that Winter's Ordeal and Surrender, the one that Alpha collected. I mean, you get that, like, especially in Winter's Ordeal, you can fully understand how bitter those conditions are. You feel like almost you get shivering just looking at it.
Yeah. This is another beautiful shot. The highlight people. Look at that. Love the woman holding like the cane sticks. The colors of their
The
garments.
lighting as well. I like the way the lighting is highlighting down into the valley on the I believe a sheep down there. Am I correct?
Like a herd.
Yeah, I mean this whole collection, I think, was when I saw it, was one of my favorites. I think that we looked at. I mean, not to take anything away from the others, something I liked about this one a lot, and I think there was another one like we get to later probably that was sort of the same sort of vibe. But there's just, I don't know. I feel I get it. Like I'm there. I think it could have been the only criticism I have is, which is a very hard thing to control when you're in this, is that you've got what, five images that I guess are greeny and a little bit warmer in tone, and then you've got the three winter images, which are clearly obviously snow and very white, and
Yeah.
The whole collection somehow just doesn't coercively sit together as a whole when you look at it on a screen.
Yes.
As color tone. I get fully that that's a very hard thing to do, but I maybe would have. I don't know if you could have got. I mean, I feel like if this had been a collection of whatever this is, 8, is it? Is that right? 8 or even 6 or so of just the snow ones, or you could. It looks like there's potential to get a really strong series all done in snow there, and really get that hardship across, that cohesiveness in the collection, and the powerful images. Because number Foggy Forest, I mean, is a strong image as well. I mean, that really is a strong image. Like,
Yes.
It makes me want to see more of this. Is what I'm getting at. I guess I want to see more of this winter time, whereas against or go the other direction and go more for the spring and the Highland people shot that we just talked about, where it's down on the valley, the light with the shepherds with the sheep, or goats, or what, a herd, or whatever they are. I think
I think we both agreed on this one just not being as strong nearly as the other one, Soil House.
Yeah.
And I don't. It feels, there's something about it that feels very like soft and hazy, but also it's kind of strange because you have like this ladder, um, and it's not like really leading us to anything that would be, maybe if there was a child on the roof or coming down this ladder. Say there's a child coming down the ladder and we see the child first, and then we can see this woman watering the gardens here and stuff like. Then I think it'd be a really strong image. But outside of that, without that, it's a hard one for me to stand out in the collection. I would say that would probably be one that would go last if this collection sells out.
I think it doesn't fit within the statement as well. It doesn't look that hard. It's springtime, it's blue skies, it's a house. Like, it doesn't look that rough. They've got a watering hose, and I think the sky looks a little bit over processed for me.
Too blue, for me.
Yeah, it's
too
blue, too oversaturated. Yeah, so I agree. That's definitely the weakest shot for me, and I think, like you said, it'll probably be the one that gets collected last if it does. But I hope I'm proved wrong by that. Flies off.
I hope so too. Yeah. Other than that, like we said, the artist statement is really good about the activity on these. So 3 months ago, Alpha, 2 from Alpha and 1 from Bombay. And so like it makes me question, like, so what's happened in 3 months? It's 90 days of no sales or maybe no visibility. And so I wonder, if the artist is what they're doing with their presence. Are they, if they're active. And I like to tell a lot of the artists, like, I know Dan likes to say the same thing, Dan Hawk, like, sometimes it's just, taking whatever your favorite shot in the collection is, maybe it's this shot, and posting it and writing something about it on your own Twitter feed, that, something that makes you feel a certain way about it. And just then putting a link to your collection and saying, hey, some of the stuff in this collection is still available. Like, little things like that, where, like, try to, like, avoiding like shilling, but more of like storytelling about the piece, and talking in spaces and stuff, and just being more involved in the community. But when I see no activity for 3 months, it's a long time, and so it's like it has probably something to do with the marketing, the presence, the building relationships type of thing, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think because like the works, like we talked about, Highland people, Foggy Forest, Historical Barn, they're all shots that I think people would want to collect if they knew about them. I think there's, people would like those and appreciate them. So I think it'd be interesting to know what the reason is. And, I guess it could be someone sat here listening to us and they're just like, well, I'm showing up every day and I'm doing my thing. And, if that is the case, I think it's just a matter of, keep on doing it, then don't give up. If you are doing that, 3 months is going to seem like a long time, but eventually things will pick up and people will get eyes on these if you keep hustling, if you are trying anyway to do all the stuff we've said. But I agree with what you've said of, get some. I'd love to read a story about migrant and surrender. I'd love to know, I'd read that thread if I saw those images again by the artist and they were telling me their thread about it and their story in the background. I would take the time to read that, and I'm sure more than likely, well, I definitely retweet it, like even if I just saw it, but I'd be more inclined. I'd take the time to listen to it and talk about it.
Absolutely. So if anyone is inclined in the audience to talk about one of these pieces and showcase the artist, that'd be nice too. But I think we can move on to the next collection.
Let's do it.
So we got 1, 2, 4 more. So, lives between lives between the lines. And let me just do real quick. This is by Osman Masoglu. And so I like the read on this. I'm going to read it. Century-old hemp rope making in Anatolia, working on handmade looms in the humid caves. Children run about 40 kilometers a day from one end of the cave to the other. The threads they produce on handmade wooden looms are used to tie nets, hammocks, fishing nets, and various materials. This method, which can be considered as the most primitive method of ropery, is about to disappear in Anatolia. This project, whose documentary I started in 2009, turned into the first solo exhibition in Istanbul at the Ibrahim Kale Art Gallery under the name Lives Between the Lines, and signed by Osman Masoglu in 2014. The project, which was exhibited again in many different points of the country, received awards in many international festivals and competition. The collection includes 20 works, one of one. So I really enjoyed the artist statement, and I don't mind that the artist spoke a little bit about some of the awards and stuff that has won at the end. I think that's fine if you make that secondary to the actual story. And so, first glance, diving in, looking at some of these images, there's some really just like standout and beautiful shots in here. Really great use of a black and white and tonality. But at the same time, 20 images seems like a lot when there's a lot of repetition in these images. Like, how many shots do we need where there's lines intersecting through the frame and the kid's running the line through? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shots there. And so, while a lot of those are beautiful shots, like I think this is a really beautiful shot. There's a lot of them.
That's nice. That
right? There's a lot of them. I mean, this is beautiful too. Oops, wrong one. But yeah, anyway, there's a lot of beautiful ones. But I like those commas in between. Also like let's look at this. We didn't even look at this one yesterday. I just saw this. Like, look at this man's expression sitting here in this sort of dingy place with this dirty cot and this teapot and a cigarette. This is a beautiful like comma between all of those other shots. And like in a documentary series, like I want to see a bunch of different things. This is another one that's much different from the kids running through the lines. A beautiful shot. You can see the movement on the kid. The movement on the wheel is really apparent. The composition is really great. And there's just a few there's just other shots in here that kind of do the same thing. Like, look at this. Gorgeous. Love these lines just coming down. The threads here. The kid's right in the middle. He's got his
he's got his hands off on the sides and his pockets, thinking about, man, looking at all the work that he's going to have to do next. Like, looks like a lot of hard work. So, my biggest feedback on this, I think you make some really beautiful shots. I think the price point is really great. It's just that there's too many photographs. And there's only too many photographs because there's too much repetition. You could have a series of 20 if they're all kind of speaking the same language in a different way. But if we're continuing to speak the same language in the same way, it starts to become repetitive and it feels less scarce. Like if you own this image, it doesn't feel as scarce if there's only one image in there or two images or even three images, but not 7 or 8 images of the child running the lines. So I'd probably try to figure out which ones are the strongest ones, right? Or the ones that sold. Well, there's only one that sold. There's one shot that sold, period, and that's this one here. Interesting. Not the line one that I would have purchased exactly, but an interesting shot. So I'd like to pass it off to actually you. I know spoke a lot already on this, but when there's 20 images, you got to say a lot. But Jordan, what do you think of the collection?
I think you pretty much summed it up. I think I'd just like to add in that I think the reason why it does what you're saying is that they are all fantastic shots. I do really like them all, but it actually, because there's so much repetition, it loses the impact for me when I see the collection. So I think the old adage of just less is more in this is, I think if you took the 10 best out of this, or 12 or whatever it works out being, I haven't worked out how many are exactly similar, but I think you would have a really, really strong, cohesive, not just a collection, as a story, as a whole piece that could be put in a collection for NFTs, could be in a magazine, could almost start to make up, a little book, calendar. It's there's lots, like you said there. Number one, it's totally different. The kids, where is it? Number 18. These are all strong images.
This one's very different too.
Yeah, if you
I
keep
love
these
that.
ones, I think you just need to get rid of some of the ones that have got lines on, because they're not bad images or the same sort of style. It's because they lose their power because there's too many of them. They become, like I think you said it, they're less scarce. And I don't think it's even the scarceness in as the collecting point of view. It's just less scarce in the mind. It's like, oh, okay, this is just kind of common. Like that's just what you do when you got there. Whereas if you had one of those shots, it'd be like, oh wow, that's cool. Like that. I think probably number 11 or number 7 would be the two I would keep in there. Obviously, got to keep number 13. Sorry, but I think let's tightening it down. And it's a really hard thing to do as an artist and a photographer, especially when you put your heart and soul into something. And especially when they are good, strong images, it's hard to leave quality stuff on the cutting room floor. But I think it would be more beneficial to do that in the end, in the long run.
I think 3 shots with the running lines could be good if they're different enough from each other. So like this one, right, is very different from, say, this one.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
And so like, I know running the line's a big part of it. So like maybe grab 3 of them, but let's see if you have, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, maybe I think there's 7 actually. Maybe grab 2 or 3. But
I think there's 3 in there definitely that are quite different, but still get the story across and use the lines and allow you to include it. I think I'm just agreeing with you there. Yeah, totally. I think.
Yeah, like this has lines and this is nice. This is nice and this is different. I love this. This is like could be a father working with his son. This is a phenomenal image. But
I don't think it's just the lines. It's those 7 or 6 that are very, very similar that I think just need to be chopped down, don't they? And just yeah.
But this is the main problem to me is that like I just finally found this photo. I love this photo, but we looked at this series yesterday. I didn't even see it. I looked at it just now, and it took me this long to find it because there's so much other stuff cluttering my eyes that I can't find these moments.
Yeah, it's losing the impact. It's going back to what I said. It loses the impact, and I think from a collector's point of view, seeing so much art, so much photography, if they're going to have that problem, they might miss the piece that they would have collected because they're just seeing like when you do scroll down it, you see those shots just come up all the time, and it looks quite repetitive, even though it's not when you actually delve really into it. There's only
Yeah.
there's lots of difference in there and lots of variation.
But if I just, I don't know, like I favorited, I don't know, let's just favorite this one too. Tell me I favorited one. I'll favorite this one too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I didn't mean to favorite 10. But like, I wonder if you take those 10, like, and you put those 10 in the collection, how much different it's gonna look, Like it's, but like if you're here, the artist, or you're gonna watch the replay, maybe take the ones that I just favorited and just put those in a series together and move them around, and maybe the impact is just much more, before I even put my work into a collection, I use Adobe Bridge, and that allows me to just drag the photos around and move them next to each other until I have something that really feels like a story and feels impactful. And
I
rather
was going
than
to
just
say, I had in my notes exactly the same thing. I don't use Bridge, but I think laying it out how it actually looks and playing around, even if you have to get them printed, or even if they're just cheap prints, on an A4 piece of paper, and actually cut them out and just move them around, whatever your process is, I think it's a really useful skill to do, and to knock it down and make sure you do get the gems in there. So I think that's a great point, mate.
Yeah. Also, hey, thanks Subu. Subu's here, and he's retweeted the last artist and added us on there, so I retweeted that as well. So thanks people in the chat who are supporting the artists by showcasing their work. Appreciate that very much. So yeah, I think we move on from this collection. I think that's the main things we wanted to hit. Was that I think this collection is going to work better as 10 to 12 than 20. There's too much repetition and line shots. Great photos and great compositions, great price point, great artist statement. All right. So next one we'd like to look at is, let's sort it by oldest. Let's sort it by oldest. This is Istanbul Stories, Through the Window, and this is by Amasius. And this one hits home because this is on a ferry, and I got my 100 collection on the ferry that I'm working on now, and I shoot a lot of stuff like this with the window shots, and there's a lot of really beautiful ones here, and so I like to see stuff like this sometimes because it inspires my own work because it's similar, and so it gives me new ideas on how to do some certain things, and so let's take a look at the artist statement, because I love this artist statement. I thought it was great. So, through the window, I saw you suffering. The city of Istanbul divided by a sea lane called the Bosphorus Strait. The ferries have traversed these waters for millennia and were only mode of transport between the Europe and Asia halves of Istanbul for the bridges. When I was working in Istanbul, my daily job did not give me many opportunities for photography. There was no time to get out to the office and shoot. For that reason, I used my commuting times to shoot photos on public transport. This is really interesting because that's how I started on the ferries, because I was taking the ferry from my house to school. And so I didn't really have much time to shoot photography because I was in school all the time. I was doing an hour commute to and from Manhattan to school. And I was people watching on the ferries. And so I started shooting on there. And it seems like the same case for him. So there was no time to get to the office and shoot. For that reason, I used my commuting times to shoot photos on public transport. I was living in Asia and my work was in the European part, so I was using ferries mostly. I was with them and everyone had a different story to tell. I want to capture their emotions. This series of photos looks at the people in the ferry lines and tries to connect them with the viewers using the power of photography. We photographers put lens glass between people and ourselves. I love that. Now I put another glass window in this series to isolate myself and give my subject a different story. I think that's a phenomenal artist statement. I think that's a really, really good artist statement for anyone who's looking to think about how to write something to connect with the. What did you think of the art? Did you agree?
Yeah,
Or you
I
liked it
couldn't
too?
agree more. Yeah, I really like it. I mean, I think when you just open it up as well, like you've got it now, or maybe you scroll down a little bit with the banner image and the scroll up. Sorry, yeah, like that. It just looks nice as well. I'm straight away. When we were looking at it yesterday, I was like, I want to know more. Especially, I think it's the banner along with the story there or the artist statement. Is really good. Yeah, everything about it is spot on, I'd say. And
Yeah.
I like the liners as well. They've used some, quite clever little bits there in wording. Yeah, it's good. I've got no real feedback other than go, brilliant job on that
Great.
section.
Yeah, that artist statement. Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look at some of these. I mean, I favorited a few here. So let's open up this one. It's not sold. This is number 10 through the window. I really love this shot. I don't know how this didn't sell. It's almost like it's split here, and it's a mirror, but it's two different people. But it's almost like a mirror of a mirror shot through this, dissected the people. Beautiful, like eye contact of the girl in here. I loved her hand placement. I love the contrast and tonality that this artist is using through black and white. I've never even thought about shooting black and white on the furry at all. And these are just look at this shot here. This one has soul.
Yeah, that one.
Right, this shot.
Yeah.
Who is this 6B? I think this is unknown collector. Let me see who this is.
We're delving deep into the.
Yeah, he's got 1.2. Yeah, this is unknown collector. He keeps it on the unnamed. Sorry to give up your
You've doxed him.
Yeah. What happened there? His collection. I think I did by accident. Collection by accident. So let me get him back up. Istanbul through the window.
That shot that you just had up, the first one, that one is so strong. That I think the fact there's two people at that man's face in the window there's something about the way the eyes go in between the stripes, the way that leads you. Then those lines subtly lead you of the bow. Everything from all the lines are leading in, so you see him, and then you're just dragged through the scene into the other fella at the end of the scene at the far left.
Look at the scratches. The scratches on the eye.
Mm.
How is the head so big? How did it feels unreal to me?
I think he's leading. It's wide angled as well, isn't it? So it's probably shot on like a sort of 16 or something like that, 20, 24 maybe.
Yeah, and he probably turned the lens to the left, and so since the man's in the right side, he's distorted and bigger. Wow, what a shot!
I think the other one you were about to go to there as well was number 1. I believe you were hovering over.
I'm gonna put it in the order of oldest.
Right.
So this is number 1.
Yeah, that's strong as well. I think that textures over his face. I mean, I don't know. There's something about his face. So.
It's like the water. It's like his face is in the water in the reflection.
Yeah, it's really strong. Really strong. And then
Wow.
what's the other? This whole again number 4. Again, the same sort of thing. I mean, it's. But I don't feel it's repetitive as well in this. I don't know. I just really like this collection. I think this is really strong with the whole thing. I mean,
yeah, me too. Oh, look at the second face in here. Look at this.
Oh, I didn't even notice that when I was looking.
There's another face in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like a ghost. That's cool, man.
Like a ghost. Yeah. Great angle and composition. Then these people not noticing you, and when they do, this is a beautiful one for me too. I love this shot.
Yeah, it's got nice light on it, hasn't it?
It's beautiful.
I think as well, this person
What's that? I think, did you cut out? I think he got rugged. I think Jordan Banks got rugged, or I got rugged. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Mike.
All right, I'm not rugged. Jordan. All right. Okay, so I'll speak.
Jordan,
Yeah, so
try disconnecting and reconnecting if you can, Jordan.
yeah. Yeah, we were talking about the lighting in here. It's beautiful, just how it's hitting her. Beautiful girl. Her eyes are just closed. It seems like she's just in this peaceful moment. And I feel like the boat does that a lot as a form of transportation. That it's a really peaceful way to get yourself to work.
Making my commute just into my garden to my office look pretty pathetic.
You're good now.
That's
You're
nice,
good.
isn't it? That one.
Yeah, you're good now. I hear you.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you not hear me?
No, before I couldn't hear you.
Oh.
You rugged out on that last girl, so I was talking about it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise. I might have been talking just to myself then.
Yeah, you were. But yeah, look at these lots of great properties in here.
You can hear me.
Yeah, you're breaking up though. You're breaking up.
Yeah, I noticed that they've done it. Can you hear me all right? Because I think my screen was going.
Now I can. You're going in and out. Did you change something in your location or something?
No, I'm in exactly the same place. Nothing's moved. I'm not sure what's happening.
Well, you sound good right now, so go
I'll
ahead.
hold my head in exactly the same place. I was just agreeing with you when you were saying about the light.
Yeah.
That's a strong shot. I mean, they're all strong. I don't think there's any sort of. I've got any feedback into improve the actual imagery. I think they're solid throughout. I think it's tight. I think it's thought about. I mean, what is it? 10 images, I think. And I think what you were saying as well, like everything's in there, the additions, the photographer, the license. I mean, I assume we just picked this just to highlight how good it was.
Sure. I mean,
yeah.
I get that it's cohesive with the the shooting through the windows, right? Because it's about like through the window. But I wonder if like I'd like to see the artist kind of like expand and shoot from like the inside of the ferry, shooting outwards on the people that are on the outside deck through the window, or even just showing other portions of the ferry in different perspectives and stuff. And maybe that doesn't go in this collection, but maybe it expands onto another collection too. I
I hear that.
want to see more of the boat. Yeah. But yeah, no, I love the collection. I think it's great. I think it's just good to highlight. There's 4 owners. Let's see. Alpha owns one of these actually. Justin Aversano owns one of these. Geez.
That's awesome.
Oh, Justin owns this one.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I'd say probably.
Yeah. Well, let's see. What's my favorite? My favorite one. I think this is my favorite actually. I really enjoyed this one. I really like this shot. But yeah, they're all really, really strong. So I don't really have anything else to say about this. So this is basically just kind of like showcasing someone who's put together a really solid body of work, very cohesive, very strong photographs, very good artist statement, very good descriptions and details, and just like to get some more eyes on the work. From that, we'll move on to family life in the snow.
This is where you change the order on me to get it confusing. I'm back.
Yeah. This is family life. Yeah, that's because I made a mistake. Well, there was a mistake in the spreadsheet, and so these last 2 were actually covered maybe in a few AMAs ago by different hosts, and so I put it last because some of it was already covered. So we could kind of just go through this and just talk about it a bit.
So family life in the snow. In 2019, I decided to go to Bengal in eastern Turkey for a photography organization. The weather was snowy. It was a difficult journey. When I came to the city, I stopped with my vehicle in a small village and met a family. I was very impressed, talking about the life they lived, and I decided to shoot the project I was waiting for. This project, which I shot, tells about the work of a family in the field of animal husbandry, where they live in very difficult and harsh climatic conditions. Collections of 8 high-resolution JPEG images. All photos are one of one. Photos were taken 26/1/2019. The photographer is Tin Inan. And so there's been no activity, so no owners yet. So if you enjoy the project, share the project, please. Taking a look at it, so first thing I noticed is like price point. You got 0.1, 0.1, then you go into 0.15. There's definitely like a cohesive theme here with like a father son taking care of these herds of I believe sheep, and we looked at the collection. There's a couple that felt like a little out of place. I think it'd be like it was like these two here. Although this was one of my favorite shots in the collection. I think because I love the kid's expression with the horse, and I love how the light is kind of like coming on him in this angelic way, and just kind of like leading to the boy. And I love the perspective from just inside the stable. And so I'd like to see more. I'd like to see maybe some more indoor shots in this collection. The first one we both talked about, we thought this was a weak shot within the collection. Just a bit too far away. Not really too sure of what the story is happening in here. Not really sure of the significance of this whole left side of the frame with this door with the 19 on it. Just didn't make much sense of a storytelling images. Whereas a shot like this one had this kid leading the herd, and just beautifully on this like leading line of all of these just coming down right kid with a beautiful expression. He's holding the stick here, and it's quite wonderful. We both really like this shot, right? You used the word like I think you said eerie or something, but there is just something strange about this, right? It looks like he's walking with like a pointy umbrella sticking down. I love how his feet are separated. He's got this thin frame, very strange figure in this also strange environment, right? You want to talk about this one?
Yeah, it makes me question it. That's the thing, I'm a big believer in getting, as I've said many a time over this evening, like just getting the, what's going on. I want to know more, and that keeps me attracted to it. Like, like you say, that eerie figure. It's got that eerie sort of. I guess this is this in Turkey as well? This series is, isn't it? I believe. Yeah, they've obviously with the way the snow blows in the mountains in Turkey, you get this like very sort of hazy, natural haze that sort of appears that gives it that really eerie feeling. It's pretty cool. I might need to go check it out myself, to be honest. But I think there was a couple that stood out for me on top of that one as well, which you pointed out, family life in the snow, what we talked about with the boy, and then the line just of the sheep just dragging you back in through the shot is fantastic. I think number 2 as well with the horse jumping, just capturing the moment like that is, that's a unique moment. That's never going to happen again. There's nothing posed about it. There's no, it's a real. It's quite unusual as well. I mean, I can't think of a time I've seen a horse like just sort of jump like that. I mean, I know the horse jumping and horse racing, but I mean, just like that, it's quite an unusual scenario. I think for me, the two things I really like Family Life in the Snow 5, like you've talked about. I think that's a really strong image. I think number 4 lets the series down a little bit, but I think I'd either lose, even though it's a good shot, I would keep it to all outside and in the snow and keep that white coherency throughout the collection, or I would try and add in, as you suggested, Mike, to put in more of the indoors. Like, I'd like to know a bit more about their story of what happens after this. What happens before this? What happens at lunchtime? break time, where do they live? Like, what do they, just a bit more about their lives and their connection, maybe as a father and son as well. Of just telling that story and getting a bit more under the skin of it. Maybe that's just a matter of revisiting.
Yeah, it's just a matter of going back and
Yeah.
and spending time with them. Like I said, like building rapport, or building relationship with those people, I think.
Yeah, and I think you've got to see that. I think this is a point I've been thinking about. I think that when in the traditional world, often, it's, say, documentary, editorial type photography, it's often it has to be done under quite quick circumstances because you're given. And I'm not saying this person was paid or went on assignment, I don't know, but generally the feeling is that you should be able to go and tell a story in a very brief amount of time, because that's what some magazines will give you budgets to do, or that's a time scale you'll get access to these places. But we're now in a world where you can get paid accordingly and correctly for your work, where I understand this person probably hasn't gone out and shot this as an NFT project, but I think it's a good point that you can, if you've got a good project and it's almost there, and especially if you can go back and reshoot it, or before releasing it and minting it, or just doing whole stories, you've got to put that time and effort in. If you're going to charge these prices of, $500,000, 500 up to 1,000, up to $5,000 or whatever for images, it's worth putting in the work, and the art deserves it, and the collector deserves it, and it will stand the test of time, far greater. So I think, really, and that just takes a bit more time, but we're in a position where that's something that should be becoming feasible to us now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great point. I think some of the ones that were your favorites are also mine, and I think this is like sort of like true documentary. Like, this feels like very true documentary. This series, it feels like a lot of candid moments. I mean, this one, may or may not be like a posed shot, but I think it's still like really, really nice, wonderful shot here. I love this.
Yeah, I think as well, we've talked about it a bit, but putting the I think these would have a bit of the descriptions. I think are pretty good, aren't they? Yeah, they are. The family life.
The titles, though.
I think they would really. If you got a title, it would add to it again. I mean, we've talked about it before, so we won't go over it. But I think, just adding the title to that could just add a bit more impact, and it would. You almost wouldn't know why it adds that impact, but it just will. It just by not standing out as just the same title with a number. The subconscious would just kick in.
It's a huge trend today too, with people just making the title of their image the same as the name of their collection. That's like there's like almost half of the collections today do have that. So yeah, that's all I really have on this one. I think it's a beautiful series. I think you probably trim a couple, but at the same time, I think you could also even add a couple. Like if you were to do some indoor shots or revisit this, like I think it'd be really great. But I'd like to move on to the last one. So this is the tea time, and I didn't know it was this difficult, tea, but I read this and it says tea is hope in the Black Sea. It is a child, it's a mother, it's a father, it's a family, it's life. Black Sea people mostly make a living from tea. Black Sea families harvest tea 3 times a year, in spring, in summer, and early autumn. It's difficult to harvest tea and maintain it. That's why the whole family, even children, is in the field at the harvest time. It makes them tired every day in the field, but it takes their tiredness away again. Tea harvest is a child crying for a mother when even his mother is angry with him in Black Sea region. That's why tea is everything to them. So 1 of 1 edition, high resolution JPEGs, 9 images in this collection, and it talks about the artist and the awards. And so I think it's pretty good artist statement. I didn't know that that it was this difficult to collect tea, and how much of a growing process it was. And so
I think it's an interesting take on it as well, because I think we're both guilty of that, and I think it's probably quite common when you see these sort of nice shots of in India harvesting tea in Sri Lanka. It makes it look very lovely, doesn't it? You're like, oh, this looks nice. Like, that looks like an all right place to just hang out at. and do if you have to work there. Like it doesn't. So I think it's a nice topic. I think, and well explained, and I like the way they've done it.
Yeah,
Adding the mood, the editing fits in with it. I mean, yeah, it's a strong series. I'm just looking at the price though as well. It's really well priced, isn't it? For
I mean, I don't know if well priced is the right word, but
well, no,
it's very cheap.
yeah, well priced for the collector, maybe.
Yeah.
Or for the quality, yeah, not well priced for the quality of it. I don't think. Yeah,
Well,
depending on which
I
way you
mean,
put my stuff.
well, I mean, maybe this is the artist's first collection. Maybe this artist shoots so much that they have so much content that they don't care and they'd rather just sell out their first collection. I don't know. You know, you could have did 0.1. You probably could have did 0.15. I mean, I don't know. With price, you know, it's difficult with talking about price because things are always changing in the space. But I don't know. I think after you sell out a couple of collections and you have this type of quality of work, I think you could sell this at 0.25. It just depends. It's just what you've built, and you know what your audience is like at that time. But you know, going into the photos, I mean, you know, beautiful color, beautiful compositions. Um, uh, you know, enough indoors and outdoor photographs, like an equal amount of indoor and outdoor. And I like that. I think it adds dimension to the body of work. And that's what I meant by like the last collection, like maybe going and get some more indoor stuff. Now let's see if I sort this by oldest. I want to see how it's laid out. I love the way it's laid out now. Look at this, it looks way better. But yeah, all of them are really beautiful. I think I'll open one that just caught my eye, I guess. Let's see this one here. OpenSea wants to open up for me. Yeah, that's nice. Really, the light and color, beautiful. Like it's very hard for me to find this type of this colors and stuff in where in New York, right? You have to,
It's really nice. They're really. It's nice to look at those colours, isn't it? Those combinations of the greens and the purples and reds and yellows in there. It's really
Yeah,
pleasing to the eye, I think, or to me,
yeah,
to
and
my
just
eye.
seeing the wardrobe that people wear in these other countries, like that, like people wouldn't even think of wearing here. That I think is just really like just beautiful. And look at this shot. So tea time. So like it's not just about the harvesting of the tea, but this person is also, this is an incredible photograph, like by the way. Like because just look at the exposure from inside, it's perfect. And you're looking through a frame out the window, and even the exposure outside is just absolutely perfect. It looks like a painting. The window looks like a painting. So they're not just showing the harvesting of the tea and the hard work, but they're also showing like, you know, what comes after. You know, this girl's looks like maybe she's doing her homework and she's drinking a nice glass of tea that they harvested. Wonderful, wonderful shot. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like this feels like you've got the whole story. Well, I can't remember which collection we were just talking about where we just going back through them. Sorry, yeah, maybe I think it was the family in the snow. If it had this sort of mixture, I feel like I've got one picture of them picking tea, and that's good enough. I get it. Like, you know, this is a really cohesive documentary story. Like, you know, in this editorial piece, that you really get the idea of the whole process. And I think the less is more. You know, I'm sure this photographer has a whole load of different more shots. I'm sure they have more of the tea time number one of the people. I mean, you know, harvesting or picking or whatever the term is. But they've smartly chosen that we don't need to see 5 or 6 pictures of that. Instead of, we need, you know, it's nice to see them, like the picture you've got on now with the, you know, with that little young girl with her mother.
beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole, it's just, I mean, if you put this in a magazine, you know, as a piece on an editorial or anything, you're going to get what's going on, I think, immediately from this. And it's a nice combination. It's nicely edited. The colors go together. I mean, it's super strong. This, I think. I mean, I'm struggling where that they could make this better, really, other than maybe just not call them tea time. I think these definitely deserve titles that are a little bit stronger than that. But
Yeah.
again, easily changed. I mean, I feel like I understand what's going on. The only thing I did question was, it says it's in the Black Sea region. that doesn't. I'd quite like to know where it was, like what country or
Yeah.
Just out of my own curiosity. Actually, I don't know if that's actually that necessary. I mean, I know roughly where it is, and I'm the photographer's from Turkey, but I don't know if Turkey's on the Black Sea. My geography of that region, I think something like Romania and Bulgaria are also on there, so it doesn't, if I'm not mistaken. But that's again easily solved by putting in a cap in the description, or not descriptions, in the artist statement. There, you could maybe put it in somewhere where it is, in Black Sea region, Turkey, or if they're from, whatever it is. But
Yeah, they've
yeah,
got
I
all
feel
the
like I should be.
information in the descriptions too. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I was gonna say, I feel like I should be adding more to this, but I really can't, to be honest. Other than I'd be just trying to pick holes in something for the sake of picking holes in it. To be honest.
No, and we don't always showcase a work just because it needs to, it
I think
needs
one
work.
thing I did look
Sometimes
through is there's some real. I looked at the collectors, so they've got Giga Chad Pepe. I mean, he's a big collector. That was that girl shot. Alpha's got one, I believe.
Sam, yeah, there's some big
Yeah,
collectors.
Sammy. Yeah, there's people who know, Crypto Juiced, I think, has got one. There's people who know, big collectors and photographers who know their stuff, and also collectors. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
and
only
the
say
price is the price too. Like, so.
yeah.
It's
I mean,
they're gonna move.
Yeah, I think they're going to move. I think this one's one of those that just needs to get. When was the activity? When was it? Just
The
released?
the activity's a couple of months ago, and it's also a couple of days ago. So like,
Oh, okay.
4 days, 6 days, 2 months, and it might be because this was showcased recently, but yeah, I think the rest of them will
Good.
definitely see it.
What it means is it shows that it hasn't had a whole load of sales, and then the artist has maybe not put in the extras. I think if the photographer or artist isn't doing too much at the moment, I think they should maybe get back in. I think this will sell out incredibly quickly.
Yeah.
If they aren't, if not, I think if they are putting stuff in, I think it's just the market and just finding the right collectors and getting the right eyes on it. It's just a matter of time for them.
Yeah. Wow. Boss Mom owns this one too. She's worked with MetaJungle and helping us on a lot of this. She's probably in here today.
Yeah. I got a DM or a message from her on Discord. If she is in here, I need to get back to you. I'm not very good with Discord though, but I will get back to you.
Well, I think that's a great shot too. Alpha owns that one. Yeah, I think we hit all of the. I think we hit everything today, and we're just coming up on 3 hours. And hey, just want to say, dude, awesome AMA today. Really appreciate you taking the time to take this amount of time to talk about other people's work and help other artists, and really great to have you. So.
Oh, mate, it's my pleasure. Honestly, I love everything you guys are doing at MetaJungle. I mean, I wish I could get involved more. I had the time. I mean, I just, Alpha, yourself, Emma. I mean, I think it's incredible. I mean, I reached out to Emma and was like, I want to get more involved, like how I can. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's what they're doing for the community, what the space. I'm all about this. I think this is, it's huge what we're doing here, and the time is the least of my worries. I've got all the time in the world when it comes to this sort of stuff, and I'm super happy to share and help people and be in this
That's
space.
amazing.
I feel privileged to just found this this space in general, and then to have come across MetaJungle and all of you guys. It's just like I say, I feel as grateful as you for having me. I think probably so, if not more so. So thank you very much, and I hope that everyone listening, it was useful and helpful, and my DMs are around, or hit me up on Twitter if you want to carry on any questions. And I do really hope that anything I said didn't upset anyone or offend anyone, because it definitely wasn't the intention.
No, I think all the feedback is constructive, and I think obviously people know that we're here to help people grow, and sometimes you have to take some feedbacks to be able to make those changes and grow and move on to the next best version of yourself. So I thought that you did great. So
perfect. Well, thank you very much for having me. And if you ever want to do anything again, I mean, I'm sure everyone doesn't want to hear from me every week, but down the line, I'd be more than happy to jump in on things and help out anywhere I can. Like I'm definitely. We hear it a lot, but I am here for the long haul. I mean, most things I probably I'm not, but this feels like we're in a revolution, a renaissance, a really special moment in time. I mean,
We
this is
are.
something.
We definitely are. Just want to say thank you guys for being here. Thanks MetaJungle for allowing us to be builders in the space and to help and support